Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you guys? Everybody get something to eat for breakfast? Okay, there's plenty out there, so if you want more, go back and grab seconds or thirds or whatever. First of all, thank you guys for coming this morning. I know this is kind of a weird thing. You probably don't ever have to go to orientation with your spouse, kids, partner, any of those sorts of things, but we think it's really important for you guys to kind of understand what you've gotten yourselves into. And talking to people yesterday, they were kind of excited you guys were going to be here and understand a little bit of what they're going to experience. Because congratulations, you're all in this together. Condolences, you're all in this together, however you want to look at it. My name's Brian Cornelius. I'm one of the faculty here. I'm the director of the simulation program. I've been teaching here for about 4 years, and I taught in another program for about 6 years before that. A little bit about me, and you guys are going to kind of get the same experience. If you've never been a single parent, you may be for part of this program. Congratulations. So there's a lot of things that go into life, and you probably experienced some of that already. We're going to talk about some of the stressors, some of the pluses that come with school, and just give you a little viewpoint of what they're going to experience for the next 3 years. As you can see, I do a little bit of everything. We were talking yesterday, I've got a little bit of ADD, so it kind of balances out because I can just kind of keep doing different things. So overview of the program, there's kind of a couple different components, and it's a pretty clear delineation when you transition from one point to another. The first thing is they're going to spend a year on campus here with us. After that, I call it second fall, which is kind of like the honeymoon period before it gets ugly in January. It's a little bit nicer. They're not sitting here in class. They do still have classes to go to, but it doesn't mean being here every day. And we'll talk a little bit about kind of those kind of areas in a little bit more detail in a second. After that, for the next 20 months, they'll be at their primary clinical site, wherever that happens to be. Hopefully they've told you by now and you're not packing up to move somewhere you don't know about. That'd be a bad surprise. But there's some things that happen. This is a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for them as well as for you guys by kind of secondary. So when they went to nursing school, a lot of people felt it was hard at the time. This is like 10 times of nursing school. It's a lot more complicated even than that, but also when you start looking at other programs in healthcare in general. Nurse practitioner school, drop in the bucket. It's very easy. It can be completed part-time. They can work. They're going to experience kind of some trauma, especially, from my standpoint. When I went to school, I'd always worked full-time since I was, a teenager. Now, I not only didn't have a job, I had no money coming in, and I was working harder than I'd worked any other time in my life. So it's kind of hard to have that little role experience for you. We're also going to talk a little bit about some specific life issues that go along with it. And I'll give you guys disclaimers as we kind of work through things. The good news is you get to see some really cool places. You may figure out some of those places aren't as cool as they look on TV. But it's a nice life experience. And when you guys finish and they finish, you'll look back and one, it's going to fly by. But you look back and you're like, that wasn't the worst thing I've ever done. I could do it again. I don't really want to, but you could if you had to. So that first 16 months is spent here mostly on campus. That first year is here on campus. And then, like I said, that second fall, they kind of get a little break and they do some online classes. A lot of people kind of take that opportunity to move. Some people will work a little bit. We don't mind people working at that point. Just make sure that you remember the primary point is to be in school. Making money is good, especially if you're kind of in the middle of a 3-year paycheck drought. So we understand that. So when they're here on campus, a lot of the time will be spent right where you are right now. This is our building. This is our lecture hall. They have access to it 24 hours a day. So it's going to sound kind of crazy, especially when we start talking about like sim stuff, but they have badge access to the building. It's not uncommon to be here at 2 o'clock in the morning and there's a study group going on. So when they say, hey, I'm going to study or I can't sleep or we've got a 10 o'clock Saturday night study group, they're probably being honest. So don't worry about things like that. They will also have to come in and practice outside of class for things like simulation. So that's going to be on their time, whenever that happens to be. Some people are like early risers, and they're like, get up at 5 o'clock, go do their run, and then they go practice in the sim lab before class. So things that didn't happen in nursing school or anywhere else in college do happen here. Other people have a little bit of a struggle figuring out how they do or don't study. Me personally, when I was in school, I would find anything else to do in the house but study. Cooked all the meals, house was sparkling, took naps on the couch, played video games, anything but studying. So I had to get out of the house. So that, seems a little bit crazy. They may really have to get out of the house because there's too many distractions there. I had to go sit in a cubicle in the library to be able to force myself to study. So you'll see that they struggle with that. You will also see that, and we encourage this, but there's a variety of different study models to be used. Part of that's individual study. Part of it's group study. There's so many different backgrounds and resources in this program, we encourage them to take advantage of all those. You know, if you've struggled with chemistry historically and somebody in your group was a chemistry major, use that. But part of that is being in a group together. When you're in that group, people pick up different things. So you may not only do the chemistry example, but hey, I'm taking care of the pediatrics chapter, you're taking care of the CV chapter. That way we all kind of benefit from it. With technology now, a lot of folks do transcription. So maybe I'm taking care of one note section, somebody else is taking care of another note section, and then we exchange. Or we put together practice quizzes, things like that. So it's a little bit different from studying than they've done in the past. I'm going to talk a little bit about that second fall, because that's kind of a nice family time. Like I said, it's a little bit of a breather. Usually when folks get through the first 2 semesters of the program, they can kind of take a breath and relax a little bit. The first 2 semesters are really hard. They're not the hardest part of the program, but they're the hardest adaptation. When you come into the program and you haven't really studied before, you spend a lot of time playing catch-up. In Dr. Erickson's professional aspects class, we get them to put together like a minute-by-minute schedule for that week because it's hard for people to adjust to that. One of the things that I always remind them, and she does as well, you have to include you time. You have to include family time. Because if you book up your whole schedule with studying and preparing for school, you'll be crazy by the end of the first month. So we encourage that, but it may not be what it was before. They can't go to the movies every Saturday night. It may be studying. It's a fun weekend, let me tell you. But that second fall is kind of the time to move if you're going someplace else for a clinical site. So that way you've got a little bit of a breather. You can pack stuff up and travel someplace else. All the courses will be online. So they will be in-person online. And what I mean by that is it's synchronous. At 10 o'clock today, I have an online class, and everybody from across the country will hop on Teams when we go through the lecture together. After that semester, they go to asynchronous. So they'll continue to have classes, but they're not synchronous. So everybody's not meeting at the same time, the recorded lectures that they'll do. The exams will still be at the same time every Thursday from 5 to 7, but the classes themselves vary a little bit. The other thing is during that second fall, the first weekend in November, they'll come back to Fort Worth for the simulation symposium. And it's really 5 days of fun, but it's very intensive at the same time. They come back, and it's kind of like a preclinical boot camp. So we go through things like putting in invasive lines, doing different types of nerve blocks on cadavers, running them through scenarios, doing everything we can to really prepare them before they start clinicals in January. It's kind of cool for them because everybody they spend a year here with, everybody comes back to campus, they get to have a little bit of fun together, so it's kind of like a little reunion, and then everybody goes their separate ways. But that's something else for you guys to kind of plan about at that point. So class time, it'll be 108 people sitting here, so a little bit busier than it is right now. Not as big as this lecture hall, but they get the joy of listening to all of us talk about different topics. The nice thing is a lot of those lectures are recorded, so going back to those study things, they may be playing the same lecture back for hours and hours and hours. So if you think about each lecture being about 2 hours, you watch it a couple times, you're looking at 4 to 6 hours for each class. There's 4 to 5 classes a week. You see how time quickly adds up. We do a series of 10 simulation labs across the first year on top of that symposium. They're usually Tuesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays, and they're a couple hours. So we do everything that we talked about, all those preclinical skills, how to turn on the anesthesia machine, how to make sure it's safe, how to induce anesthesia, how to put in different monitoring devices, how to put in epidural catheters and spinal catheters and those sorts of things. Everybody enjoys sim though. It's kind of nice because you spend a whole lot of time in here learning the theory. You get to go over there and actually experience the fun side of anesthesia. And it really helps out when you get to clinicals that it's not the first time you've done it. When I started, I went into the operating room and they kind of talked me through things. So it's nice for them to have the opportunity to have done it time and time again before they actually get to clinicals. So studying. As I said, everybody studies differently, and people for the most part have not studied before they got here. So that's kind of a sharp up curve for them. That's the hard part of that first semester is learning to study. The second semester, you kind of have your routine settled out, you know what to do. So the content the second semester is a little bit harder than the first semester. So it's a different toughness. But the good thing is if you have figured those two things out, when you get to clinicals in January, life gets a little bit easier for you. Because now you still have classes, but you're also in the operating room 5 to 6 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day. So you don't have all day to study. If you didn't put together good study habits to start off with, when you get to that point, you're lost. So you'll see that there's some people that maybe kind of slip through the first semester of the program and don't have good study habits, and then they tighten down and they do a little bit better. But then they get to clinicals and they just can't manage it anymore. So you see how quickly the stress can kind of pile on top of you. You'll also see, just like anywhere else, we have people that kind of wait till the last minute to study. So when we start getting towards the latter part of the semester and finals are coming, you may not see your friend, spouse, loved one for a week or so because they're stuck in the library studying. We try and discourage that. All our classes are cumulative, so that information builds. The downside of anesthesia is I can't apologize for my patient because I didn't feel like that was important to know when it is important. So we need to make sure we remember all these things along the way. That's a ton of information to try and process and retain as you go through the program. So the good news about second fall, you can go anywhere you want as long as the internet works. I was talking to one of my students this morning that's in China. She's going to be hopping on Teams in an hour and a half and joining me from China. We'll see how that goes. It's a new experience for us, but we did a little test and it seemed to work. But as long as the internet works, you can be on the beach, you can be in the mountains, we don't care where you are. You just have to be able to remember that that's your priority right now, is getting through that program and that the internet works. With that in mind, if you happen to be sitting in the Caymans and you're getting ready to take an exam and the internet drops, we can't help you with that part, okay? We feel really bad you're sitting on the beach and the internet's not working, but sorry. So after that, we transition to clinicals. Clinicals can be exhausting for a variety of reasons. One, most of us as nurses had kind of cush schedules, right? We worked 3 12-hour days, maybe 4. Sometimes we pick up an extra shift, but that was it. Most of us weren't working 60 to 80 hours every week. That's what they're going to be experiencing now. The other thing is days start really early, especially on certain rotations. The reason I put that picture up there, when I was on my cardiac rotation, we were basically either in the operating room or on call for 6 days. So if you were at home and a heart came in, you got to come in. Most of those days start at 4 o'clock. You'll be there and have everything set up, including all the medications, all the infusions, all the lines, for them to start that case, and it takes a while. Same thing when you first start off in the operating room. You'll figure out by the time that they're getting ready to graduate, they can be ready in about 5 minutes. But that first day, it's going to take an hour or two to do all those things. It's new. I have pretty low expectations for people when they start clinicals, and I tell them the same thing. If you can figure out where to park your car and change clothes and get to the OR, I'm pretty happy with you. Obviously, it gets stepped up a little bit after that. By the time you get to this point, you're pretty on with everything else in anesthesia, and you're worried about specifics. The reason Lady Gaga's up there, and I kind of laugh, I went to a residency in Miami, and we had Lady Gaga tickets sitting in the front row on my heart rotation. So as you can imagine, I was a little tired at that point, and I may have fallen asleep sitting there. So you may be talking to your loved one, spouse, son, daughter, and next thing you know, they're not awake anymore. It's not that you're boring. I mean, you might be, but it's probably not on you. Just understand how tired they are at that point. They may fall asleep reading. They may not feel like eating dinner. Things that you're kind of used to may not be the norm at that point. So we talked about the exams in class. There are 2 comprehensive exams they'll take during the program. The C, which is kind of like our midterm or our in-training exam, they'll take twice. So the good news is it helps them prepare for the final examination or boards. The bad news is it's not only part of the program, but it's also a grade. So it's kind of stressful for them. So when you start heading into these 2 things, you'll see that you thought they were really stressed before, and now they've stepped it up a level. NCE is our national certification exam. The way that process works, you graduate. For instance, our 3rd years graduated on Saturday. So generally over the next month or so, they'll be taking boards. We know if you wait longer to do something, you don't do as well. So we tell them, and we're going to tell you guys too to help remind them, that needs to be your priority when you graduate. You've worked really hard. I know you want to go on vacation, you want to move, you want to go do fun things. But take a couple weeks, study for boards, and take it. We know that people that have other priorities tend to struggle. The other thing that kind of comes into play there is the rumor mill. You know, I take my test and it was really easy, and I'm like, oh, Ashley, don't study. It's not a big deal. You'll be fine. I didn't do Ashley any favors because now she's not worried about it. Same thing when I'm like, well, it was okay. You know, I took a week off. We went on an island hopping cruise. It was great. And then I came back and did fine. I'm not Ashley and she's not me. We all experience things differently. So when you guys, or when your loved ones graduate, remember that's the priority for a little while. There's plenty of time when you graduate to go on vacation. When you finish the program, you take your certification exam. It's usually 3 months at a minimum till you can start working. Credentialing as a provider is very different than credentialing as a nurse. You know, you apply to a job as a nurse, they're happy to have you that day if they can. You know, HR does all their paperwork. Here you have to go through background checks. There's all sorts of licensing inquiries. The hospital has to approve you coming there, not only as an employee, but they have to approve all your privileges. So there's going to be a time gap in there. So if you want to go after you take boards. Don't go beforehand. So this is kind of the thing we don't really talk about. There's good things and bad things. So if you think about life as a roller coaster, there's lots of ups and downs. We usually experience this first in the classroom, then later in clinicals. It may be a good thing. You know, you start off with your first anesthetic and you get your intubation and you're great. And then you miss the next 3 and you're back down in the dips and then you're back up here. The good news is over time, those peaks and valleys kind of stretch out. It's not every case where you're cycling. It's over long periods of time. The same thing happens in the classroom. The first exam's kind of brutal for most people because you weren't really sure how to study. Every time you take a new class from a new professor, it's hard. We all test differently. We ask different questions. You prepare for those classes differently. So you'll see the same thing here, that there's lots of peaks and valleys. On your side, you may experience some of the same things. There's a lot of emotional strain. They can't go do the fun things they used to do. They may seem distant. They're not as available as they were before. Part of that may result in some loneliness for you and for them. They would probably much rather hang out with you and do fun stuff than study. There's a few twisted people out there that's their good time, but most people want to have fun with their family, with their friends, and go out. As a result of that, you see that there's some social impact. How many people are moving to Fort Worth this year or have moved? Okay. How many people had friends here when they moved? Yeah, not very many, right? So the good news, and if you've ever experienced kind of a community like this, the military is another big one, you move every couple years, you have ready-made friends here. Because a lot of these people that you're in the room with right now are going through the same thing you are, and you guys can go hang out together. You know, they understand spouses are away studying, kids are away studying. You can go see kind of their perspective on things because you're experiencing those same things together. You know, they're really at class on Saturday night studying. Well, that's fine. We'll take the kids and go to the movie. So you can kind of have a ready-made friends group there. There's a lot of unpredictability, especially when you get to clinicals. Schedules change not only month to month, but even day to day. A lot of our facilities, you don't have set hours. It's not like when you were a nurse and you were getting off at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock every day. We have to stay until the anesthetic or the cases are finished. So they may think they were getting home at 3, they may think they were getting home at 5, and then it's 9 o'clock when they get there. The one thing I can guarantee is if you plan something, they won't be on time for it. Just telling you from life experiences, if it's important to be there, you probably need to take that day off because you won't get out on time. It's important for you guys to communicate with your spouse, your partner, your kids, because a lot of that stuff tends to break down, especially when they're busy. They may be in the OR all day and they can't get on their phone. They can't answer text, emails, Facebook messages, any of those sorts of things. Most facilities kind of discourage you from trying to provide anesthesia while you're talking on your phone. Patients don't really appreciate it. They don't want to be part of the conversation. So just think about that. It may be hours till they get back to you. There's some other good news, though. You now have like this ready-made group of resources. Like I was saying, you have other friends, families to go do stuff with. You also have access to a whole health network. So if you're from out of town and your kid falls off the slide and breaks an arm, guess what? They've been hanging out in the operating room with the orthopedic guys all day, so they can probably point you in the right direction. There are some nice things about it. Other things that kind of come along with that, access to free food, drinks. There's lots of dinners that go on. Spouses get invited to those. They'll be attending conferences throughout the country. You're welcome to go to those as well. And there's usually kind of good times, receptions, things like that when you go. So it's not all bad stuff. I don't want to make it sound like doom and gloom, but it is kind of a busy, stressful 3 years. Other things to think about, coming back for graduation. At the end of those 3 years, a lot of people come back for graduation. It's not like undergrad. This is kind of an intensive program. Some people are like, well, you didn't want to go to my undergrad graduation. It didn't really mean as much to me. This is pretty intensive. Not only do you form networks with the families, the friends, the coworkers, the classmates, but everybody wants to see each other again, especially if you've kind of scattered across the country. So it's kind of cool to come back at the end of 3 years. And it's a happy time. It's not like you're coming back for a funeral. You're coming back to celebrate everything that's happened. Something else to keep in mind, after they start the clinical phase, they have 20 days of vacation, sick time, what have you. So some people plan that out, that, you know, we're taking this trip, we know we've got this coming up. A lot of people will kind of hold on to it in case, you know, somebody gets sick, something happens, so they've got a couple days towards the end. Just think about that ahead of time. Other things to consider with that vacation time, in the first year, we kind of follow the normal school schedule. So Christmas-ish, they usually get about a month off. Spring break's still a thing. And there's usually a couple-week gap in between semesters. After they start clinicals, though, it goes to that 20 days of vacation time. I talked about this. There are resources available to them as well as to you guys. There's a counseling center on campus. They're going to come and talk in a little while, so I'm not going to beat that into the ground. But if there are problems, a lot of times the program will exacerbate them. For you, for them, for the kids. You know, Dad's not home anymore. Why don't we ever see him? He never tucks me in. So it's hard for people to understand. Like I said, open communication is really the best way to kind of overcome those things. So this is kind of a funny picture over here. This is a friend of mine from school. Obviously, he's got a little bit of a dressing problem. But this was on one of those trips I was talking about. One of those conferences we went to was in San Francisco. He found this on the street somewhere and then insisted on wearing it. I would not pick up stuff off the street in San Francisco and wear it, but he was a little odd guy. But you may have to overcome loneliness in different ways. It may be a little bit of sarcasm. It may be strange humor. It may be making friends that you didn't have before. Like I said, the nice thing about having this program is we've got so many different people and personalities. So there's usually somebody for everybody to talk to. You may find that people kind of, I don't want to say click off, but they have their little groups that they like to talk to. It may be all those people that are going to clinical sites. It may be people that had worked together before. So you'll see that a lot of times those relationships kind of develop, and by virtue it kind of extends to you guys that becomes your friends group. The good news is that there's lots of cool things to do in Fort Worth. The downside is there is a little bit of a social impact. Like I said, you may not get to do all the fun things you were doing before. It may take a little bit more planning. You can't just drop everything and go out. I'm not getting rid of all your spontaneity, but it's a little bit harder if you're having to plan on studying and things like that. We talked a little bit about how unpredictable life is. Schedules can be hard. Sometimes we don't know rotation schedules early on. Some of our clinical sites, you'll travel out of state or out of the area for clinical rotations. Sometimes it's right there, but you may go to a different hospital or a different floor. That rotation may come with a different schedule. While they're in this program, they're going to work nights, they're going to work weekends, they're going to work long hours, and it's kind of hard to understand exactly what's going to happen until it does. This is a big part. I think all of these little tips are important, but the biggest one is I think we have to collaborate and communicate. If we don't do that, people don't understand what's going on, we get lost. Life happens. It's going to happen while you're here. You can't just put things on hold for 3 years. But if you communicate with your person, it makes life a little bit easier for you. Like I said, there's lots of curbside consults. You've got a whole ready-made group of specialists at your disposal. The other thing is your spouse is going to pick up an intense amount of medical knowledge while they're here. So things they didn't know about before, they're happy to help you with now, right? There's got to be some benefit to keeping them around. You've also got that community, as I mentioned. So take advantage of those resources. It may be something simple like, hey, the school bus is late. Can you make sure that Jim gets on the bus this morning? Or I've got a flat tire. You know, who would you go to get your car fixed? Things like that that you don't think about, especially if you're from outside the area. You may have somebody in that friends group that kind of has those ready-made resources for you. It also changes you and it changes them. Those long hours are kind of like painful conditioning. You get used to it, and then when you finish, it's not a big deal to do things like that anymore. But you'll also figure out that you guys understand when you finish that you can do a lot of things you didn't think about being able to do before as well. You kind of develop that inner strength. You get a little bit of independence. Like I said, there's lots of free food and drink out there. If you haven't seen the movie, these are drug reps. Drug reps have all sorts of free stuff that they pass out to you. There's lots of dinners that they'll take you to, places you probably wouldn't go on your own, so let them pay for it if you can. We also do a lot of things here at the university, stuff like breakfast this morning. We try to have a couple get-togethers during the year. We also do kind of like fun events. We had a pickleball tournament this year with TCU. So we just try to have a laid-back thing. It's stressful, we understand that, so if we can get everybody together and have some fun, we're all about that. Like I said, graduation's kind of fun. It's kind of an exciting time period for everybody. We talked about vacation. The one thing I would kind of encourage you guys to do in addition to planning it out is don't waste vacation days. It's not like when you were a nurse and they regenerated every year. You've got those 20 days for the program. So after that, there's no more. You just get to stay a little bit longer afterwards, and nobody wants to do that when they get to the end. Now, kind of the other side of things. Like I said, life doesn't stop while you're here. If there's anything that you can imagine stressful happening, it's happened to somebody in this program. Marriages, births, deaths, divorce. We know you're going to have to move probably a couple times. People get sick. We can work through any of these things. We just have to communicate about them. And this isn't targeted at anybody. Like I said, we'll work through any problems that come up. Not that marriage is a problem, but it's stressful. If you've never been married before or haven't planned a wedding, that's a lot. Now you pile that on top of being in a program where you're working really hard, that's difficult to deal with. If you're going to do something like that, I would try and do it during that second fall when life's a little bit easier. I wouldn't try to do it now. I wouldn't try to do it in clinicals. I know most people didn't plan out a year ago that they were going to get married while they were in the program, but it's just something to consider. That's a lot for somebody to deal with while they're here. Any sort of stressful event, if you can put it off till later, please do. Because there's a lot of those things you don't have control over. Getting sick, car accidents, those sorts of things. So if there's little controls that you have, try and use them. Unfortunately, through kind of the stress level here, as I mentioned, any problems that already exist are probably going to get worse, especially if there's separation, stress. Again, this is kind of a big stressor for folks. Getting your life in order can be a little bit more difficult when you're so busy in school. So just something to think about there. Again, there are resources available. The counseling center on campus is great to talk to, but just something for you to think about there. Kids can be a blessing and a kind of a stressor as well. They don't understand what's going on. This was a picture last year when it snowed. I had to go do a lecture right after this. Sorry. I had to go do a lecture right after this. The kids wanted me outside pulling around in the snow. You're going to see the same thing. Just because, they don't have to go to the school that day doesn't mean you don't have to go to work. Last year when the Rangers won the World Series, that was great for the kids. They didn't have to go to school. Guess what? We're not going to shut the hospital down because the Rangers won the World Series. But kids don't understand stuff like that. If somebody gets pregnant, it's not a problem. I can bring in student after student after student that's had a kid while they were in the program. But again, it's just one of those life stressors. Biggest thing, any of these issues, is just please make sure everybody's communicating. We can work through almost any problem if we know about it ahead of time. Where we get into trouble is that our noticing is that the grades start to drop off or they become distant. It's harder for us to go back and deal with things when we're like a semester or two down the line. As I mentioned, almost everybody's going to have to relocate at some point in this program, whether it was moving here for this year, moving someplace for a clinical site. That's stressful. It's physically stressful. It's financially stressful. So just try and plan those things out as best you possibly can. Again, think about those resources that are available to you. The nice thing is, because we've had these clinical sites, there's usually contacts. We put people in touch with folks from the upper level class. They can share things like, hey, live here, don't live here. This is a good grocery store. This is a good school. Because until you're kind of in that situation, you don't know, especially if you're moving to truly a strange area. Illness and death happen. We understand that. Like I said, I was talking to one of my residents that's in China this morning. She's there because her mom's sick. And she's the primary caregiver, even though she's been so far away. Those things happen, but tell us what's going on. Residents get sick. We understand that as well. It's like every year somebody's got to have emergent surgery or somebody breaks something. The class 2 years ago almost put a damper on all like summer fun activities because they were playing volleyball and people were getting broken. They were playing pickleball and people were getting broken. So we went to like bubble Olympics after that so they wouldn't get hurt. But those things happen. We understand. But again, it's another stressor. But this is one you usually don't have any control over. Like I said, kids are awesome, but they're a stressor as well. I can tell you that having kids was like the most exhausting month of my life. So if you can imagine that on top of residency, it can be a little bit rough. So, we'll work through it if we have to, but if you have any control over things, it's probably not the best choice to do it now. So that's what I have. What questions do you guys have specifically? It's your freebie time.
We also have residents and recent grads that will come in and talk with you and your spouse, so you can bombard them with what to do, how to do, and they'll give you, like, you can pick their brains about everything. Like, how do you be a support person for your person? That's going to be the biggest thing, because your spouse is going to go through the most stressful thing of their entire life, and going through imposter syndrome. And that's supposed to be
can even use the microphone.
Good morning. Terry Kane, Program Director. This is my 13th year here at Texas Wesleyan. In addition to being an alum, this is my 6th year as the Program Director. Before Program Director, I was the Director over all of the clinical side of the house, so I think I know a fair amount about Texas Wesleyan. I would just, on top of what Dr. Erickson said, you know, you guys are going to be the worker bees, right? You're going to be bringing in the dollars, paying the bills because now they have no job. And it's really stressful to go from a 2-income household to a 1-income household. They are going to make more money than you can imagine at this point, and you'll be able to pay back anything that you borrow without any trouble. So as Ashley was mentioning, if you've got a lot on your plate, especially those of you that have kids or sick parents or whatever other adulting things you're taking care of, if it's stressful to clean house and you don't have time, get a housekeeper. Borrow the money, you'll be able to pay it back, and if it makes your life and your marriage and your relationships a little easier for the next 3 years, so be it. I wasn't very good about borrowing money. I didn't want to be in debt. I was afraid, that I wouldn't be able to pay it back. What happens if I got out and I couldn't find a job that paid very much money? In my last 3 months of anesthesia school, my rent went on my credit card. I was tapped out. And in hindsight, that was a very silly thing to do. These folks are going to be getting out making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on where they go to work after school. Borrow the money. Make life a little bit easier right now, whether it's meal prep or a housekeeper or a nanny or whatever it is. And if you have any other questions, this is the time. It's not stupid. It's not embarrassing. If it puts your mind at ease, please ask the question. This isn't your only day. So I can't talk to you about your students' grades. I can't talk to you about their mental health. I can't talk to you about anything private, but I can talk to you about anything related to the program, what they're going to go through, how long it's going to last, where they're going to move. So you're welcome to send them to, school with a list of questions. We know that you guys are the ones in charge and they're just following directions. So send them with your questions. Ask anything you want to ask. Yes, ma'am. I do. So they'll start clinical in January of 26. And usually by the end of the month, we have the rotation schedule done for the entire 20 months. And none of them should start rotating until at least April, maybe May or later. So they'll have 3-4 months, maybe even longer, depending on how the schedule works out. But they'll have plenty of time. The biggest thing will be they might have to get another license for that state. And of course, they'll have to find housing and, transportation there. We tell them to, try to think of all the options. I've had people stay in B&Bs. I've had people buy little campers and move the camper someplace. We have had students, if you live in California and I live in Texas and for some reason you're coming here for a rotation and I'm going there, share a couch. Not at the same time, obviously, but if I can come stay at your place for a month and you can come stay at my place for a month, we also take into account anybody else. So if I send you to Houston for a rotation and Aunt Susie lives in Houston, that's great. You can stay at Aunt Susie's probably for free for the month. So that's information they need to give us, to say, hey, I'll go anywhere you tell me to go, but if I can go to Houston and stay with Aunt Susie, hey, that's a month of mortgage. That's $1,000, that you're saving right off the bat, and maybe you send Aunt Susie some flowers and call it even. So, yeah, but plenty of notice. I will tell you that when they come home and start to ask you about questions about clinical, they can't go on vacation if they're off on a rotation. They can't come to your 50th wedding anniversary party for grandma if they're on a rotation and they're out of town. So we need to know ahead of time when those crucial don't miss events might occur. because once the schedule's out, it's in blood. It does not change. Die or go. Those are your two options because we can't change 108 people a whole bunch of times. So when they come home in a year and a half and say, hey, is there anything that I can't miss in the next 20 months of clinical? Just put your thinking hat on. It's really important. Otherwise, you'll be going by yourself. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So my daughter's a single mom, and I'm
Your plan A.
yeah, I'm the backup or whatever. So when they have he said something about 6 to 8 days of 8 to 12 hours, or 6 days of 8 to 12 hours. So that's every week.
Every week. Every week they're going to work 50 to 60 hours a week.
Okay.
Nights, weekends, holidays,
Okay.
every week.
So then, are they at the hospital that holds 60 hours?
They are. Now, they will also be on call in addition to that. And some of the places when you're on call will let you go home, wherever that is, as long as you can make it back within 30 minutes or less. Some of them will do in-house call, and that will be included then in that 50 to 60 hours. Yeah. And just as a warning, you'll also need plan B, C, D, E, and F. Okay. Because you're gonna get sick or feel bad, or you're gonna need a vacation once in a while. So yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Students that are currently doing it and just finished it, they'll give you kind of a rundown of their week and their day and how they balance, like, still doing doctor's appointments, seeing Little League, and things of that nature. I mean, you can't see everything because I'm an alum of here, and when I came here and started class, my daughter was 3 months old. And I was still pumping, I was doing everything a new mom was doing, and I was stressed out about that and stressed out about missing milestones. Luckily, I got to see most of those milestones, but there were days where I just spent all day studying, or I just spent all day crying because I was so stressed out. But, my husband at the time, he did everything. He cooked, he cleaned, he did the laundry, he did everything. He put gas in my car. Anything that I could do, I didn't do. My whole life was dedicated to studying and to learning anesthesia, period, the end. And he knew that because the sacrifice at that time was only, 28 months. So for 28 months, it was a short sacrifice for a better life for the rest of us for, 50 years or however long. So it seems tough, but 3 years is nothing because that's what I told him yesterday. I'm like, if you live to 90, you'll blink and be like, that 3 years was nothing. So whatever they can do and whatever you can do to ease their stress, make it happen. It's just 3 years. You can do anything for 3 years.
They'll also get a clinical schedule month by month. So it's not day to day that you don't know how long you're on the hook for. You'll be able to see what September looks like, what October looks like, and kind of make some plans. Yes, ma'am.
So the hospitals that we get sent to for the clinical, you guys partner with them completely?
What do you mean by completely? I just want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly.
So I know we're getting sent to Arkansas.
Okay.
And so I called the hospital to see if they had a daycare.
Uh-huh.
We have 2 very little kids, newborn. But they do have a daycare, but they said that we have to be
Employees.
employees,
Yeah.
or they have to be completely partnered with the program.
Yeah, students are not considered employees. So anything that an employee would get, students won't have access to that. So we're partnered in the sense that we have contracts. The hospital knows we're there. The anesthesia group knows we're there. Some of the hospitals, out of the kindness of their heart, will give students like flu shots, which is also just an employee benefit that they don't have to do. But otherwise, they're not considered in the least an employee and they don't have access to anything an employee would have. So if you want an exemption for immunizations, employees can have them, students cannot. If you want emergency health care, well, of course, they're going to take care of anybody in an emergency, but then they're going to send you a bill. So you don't want to go to the emergency room for a needle stick because it's way expensive. And they're not going to get that taken care of for free as a student. You're going to use your student health care insurance and go to like a Minute Clinic or a Doc in the Box or whatever you want to call them. Did that answer your question? Okay. You bet. Anything else?
One thing I will say, and it kind of varies from one clinical site to
Mm-hmm.
there are, like she mentioned, it's not just flu shots. Some places they'll get a meal allowance. Some places they get $30 a day to eat. I know people that's their routine at the end of their shift. They go through the cafeteria and bring home dinner. But that's not everywhere. It just depends on kind of the setup there. Each facility is different. But there are other things available. I have not found daycare. That would be awesome, though.
That would be awesome. Are you going to Jonesboro, Little Rock, or Hot Springs? One of the things I would suggest is to get your spouse to come see me, and we will reach out to the folks that are in Little Rock now and see if any of them are using daycare and if they like it and how much it is, and maybe give you a couple of places to start.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
On a similar note to that, they may not have passed along. Yesterday we had a little session from some of our rep levels. They're going to talk in a couple minutes. But one of the opportunities there is to get that peer support, so to get that mentor a couple years ahead. It may be somebody they have a great relationship, it may not. But they can also, or Dr. Kane or myself or any of the faculty can put you in touch with somebody that's at that clinical site to provide you with that information. So they just have to ask, or you guys just have to ask. We're happy to do that.
That helps for housing too. You know, what part of Little Rock do you want to live in? What part do you not want to live in? Yeah. Wow. Holy cow. Yes, ma'am.
I know we've been assigned to our main clinical site.
Uh-huh.
Is it possible that they will also have rotations outside of that city of work?
Most likely. Most likely.
Do you like for chunks of time or?
Where are you going? Austin. So Austin does almost everything at the one hospital. What they don't do, they do in some of their outliers. So you'll kind of hit the great big gigantic area of Austin. Jonesboro will hit the area of Jonesboro. Little Rock will hit the area of Little Rock. But there are some places like, is anybody from California going back to Arrowhead? You'll be leaving, coming back to Texas for probably 3 months at some point. Hopefully the 3 months will all fit together and you won't have 2 months here and a month there. But almost everybody will leave their city and a lot of people will leave their state. And most of the time those rotations are either 1 month or 2 months. And that's that hospital's choice. That's not our choice. Yes, sir. That's the schedule you'll get. There's also some voluntary rotations. So there are things that we have to do a minimum amount of. And then if you have time and money and energy and approval from your boss left over, there are some extra rotations that are voluntary. And some people will do those and some people won't be able to. And that's just the way it goes. But they'll be talking to you about that too in like a year and a half or before. Yes, sir. The max is 2 months, and that's usually because I put my foot down and say, I know you love them and they're very useful, but they have other things they've got to get back home and do, right? So the max is 2, the minimum is 1, and if they have to rotate out for one thing, then they're going to be gone 1 to 2 months. If they have to rotate out for 2 things, they could be gone 2 to 4 months. If they have to rotate out for 2 things, we try to keep one of those in the city, and then one of them might be anywhere, just so somebody isn't traveling 1,000 miles from home for everything while somebody else just gets to, go down the street a couple blocks. We try to share the pain or the experiences, right? Some people love to travel and, go places. All right. Yes, sir.
So if the clinical is in Fort Worth,
Uh-huh.
they still got to rotate, I guess?
It depends on what hospital, but yes, for instance, if you're at Harris Hospital, that's where you are. Harris doesn't do pediatrics. So you've got to go somewhere. You might go to Cook here in town, but there are more people in Fort Worth that need peds than there are spots at Cook. So some of them will go to Cook. Some of them might go to Tulsa. They might go to El Paso. They might go to Wichita Falls. California has to have peds, so they might come back here to Texas. Some people don't do OB, like Fort Worth Plaza Medical Center here in town doesn't do OB. So you might go to Baylor just down the street, but you might have to go to Parkland. So it just kind of depends on what people kind of request, how we can kind of fit them to where it kind of evens out for everybody. All right. Yes, sir.
Yes, I kind of want to find out about the same rotations specifically for the area of Harlingen.
Harlingen does everything in Harlingen except for OB. Now, they will go from Harlingen down to Brown, and I always mix these up, Brownsville or Brownswood? Brownsville. They'll go down to Brownsville and do some hearts, but that's no big deal. That's like 30 minutes, right? But they will leave for OB, so a lot of those might go to DHR, which is in Allen, but they might come up and come to like Parkland. But it should be in Texas, which maybe not, maybe doesn't help because Texas is still about 25 hours across, right? There was, yes, ma'am.
Y'all ever have students where their spouses get into CRNA school?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the guys talking to you, his name is Ray. Ray just graduated, but his wife Megan graduated here the year before. So we have lots of spouses. We have a student that's mom used to be with our program. She wasn't a student, but she was a clinical coordinator. So we have lots of parents, students, parents, children, lots of spouses, brothers. We've had twin brothers before. A couple of years ago, we had a husband-wife, and they went to different clinical sites. Paige was at, I've forgotten now, but one was at Harris and one was at JPS. I'm not sure which one was which. The McGardigies? Wayland was at Harris. Okay, and Paige was at JPS. So, yeah. Yep.
In different schools, too, not just here. We've got one right now that's down in Corpus, and his wife's up in Jonesboro, actually.
Yep. And I don't know if that's good or bad, right? You kind of push each other. You have a natural study partner, but, you know, everybody is competitive. So if somebody makes better grades all the time and somebody makes less grades all the time, I don't know how that works out, but probably pretty good. Bailey met her husband in school.
We're still married. Married almost 10 years. We didn't get married until after school was over, but yeah.
But you can date and go to anesthesia school apparently at the same time. Yeah.
Way different clinical sites. 'Cause he was in Alaska, so we were 4,000 miles apart for the entirety of clinicals. So that was hard, but we made it.
Yeah. You can do it. You can do it. Anything else? Are we running out of time? We still have time for questions. Huh?
Ooh, yeah, we need to let.
We need to move along. They need a break.
Yeah, well, because his class is starting at 10.
Oh, that's right.
We got a few that are going to his class because remember, we can't.
Can't miss class. I'm here all day. If you have other questions that you want to talk to me about in private, my office is, just inside the front door in those glassed areas. Please just come in. Y'all are probably going to finish a few minutes earlier than your students will. So please just come in and chat. If you have any other questions, I'd love to get to know you better. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, Brian just kind of started without Terry was standing there.
Yeah, I was like, did he just do anything? No, they might be. Okay, we're going to get started again because we have two. We have two lovely students, but one is a spouse. So she's she's a student in training also. And they actually have class, and we can't miss class. I tried to get them to miss class just like a little bit, but it didn't work out.
I'm sorry. Are you okay if I go over to the kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you,
All
ma'am.
right, awesome.
Thank you for your time.
See y'all later.
So we also work with Brian or Dr. Cornelius. I will be with your student pretty much the first year. Well, we both will be in simulation. Ashley Erickson, Bailey Freeman.
Hi, guys.
And I also teach them in professional aspects, and then I teach them in the summer principles. And so I have a really fun class in the fall. Or they get to do their field trip that they're going to do this week. And then we talk about mental health and all these other things and just other professionalism and other parts of nurse anesthesia as well. So not too crazy. And I'll let Bailey talk
Oh, sure.
about what you do.
Okay, so I'm Bailey Freeman. Like Ashley said, I will be with your students in the whole year in Sim Lab. So that's always really fun. It's a nice time to get to know each other a little bit better because we're working in smaller groups. So that is really fun. And then I will also be teaching them when they go to clinical. I'll be teaching their online classes that they take during that time. I teach in some of the advanced principles classes that they take during clinical. So it's always really fun to get to know everybody. This is a great program for you guys to get to learn about what all we do. So please ask your questions so that you can feel comfortable. We're happy to help. Okay.
So I'm going to pass the mic over to our students and former students because the ones on the end, they're no longer victims. They are now colleagues. And I got to hood some of them, and we got to watch them graduate on Saturday, that's my favorite part of this program is I always say hi friends, and then I get to say hi colleagues, and that's the best part of this program. And then they get to go make money, which you'll be happy too. Like yes, thank God. But I'm going to pass this along, and this is an open forum, so they'll be able to kind of tell you about like their background, where they are in the program, and at any point in time, if you have a question, feel free to ask. Like, this is your time to really pick their brains, to get any and everything out, and just to really, figure out, like, what job prospects look like afterwards, or how to take a vacation. How did your clinical day look like? Because some of them, y'all were all at different hospitals, right? Yeah. So it's very different for each of them. And what did it look like? How did they deal with the stresses of being in the clinical site and then being away from your wife? And, because Ray's wife went to school a year ahead of him, graduated, and then Ray was in your position where he was at home with the kids. And then he started school, and then it kind of flip-flopped. So the balance there, because you guys were both in school at the same time. Yeah. So it was a little bit of a struggle. So you get to just pick his brain and pick everybody's brain. So okay, all you have to do is just hold. All right, there you go. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Chelsea Varble. I'm a second year in this program, and my clinical site is in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Good morning. My name is Carolina Ordóñez, and I am not a student here. I am the spouse, supportive spouse. I was there in your seat last year. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, that one belongs to me. My name is Mark Lyons. I'm also a second-year student, and we just finished the first didactic year that your guys are going to be starting here tomorrow. So the two of us will be very good resources for like what that first year looks like, and then these guys will be better for like the clinical side. I think just introduction right now then.
Hi there. My name's Ashley Scott. I just graduated this year. I was over at Harris. So yeah, Dr. Ashley Scott. Thank you. Anyways, I was over there at Harris. I worked there before I went to school, and then we'll work there afterwards. I'm a lifer.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is NECA. I am a recent graduate as well. Graduated on Saturday. All of us. I trained at JPS Hospital. I am originally from Houston, and I'm going to be staying here in Fort Worth, working at JPS Hospital as well.
Hi, I'm Erin. I also graduated on Saturday, and I'm from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. I had my clinical site in Corpus Christi, and I'll be working over in Dallas, and that's about it.
I'm Ray Garcia, trained at JPS, graduated Saturday also. Like Ashley said, my wife is a CRNA. I got to see what it looked like from your perspective for about a year, and then I jumped in myself, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Where are we starting?
If you have questions for the first year, they have class at 10, so yes. Ask whatever you might have for them first on the spouse.
Okay, so you guys just want to kind of give a spiel about how it was in didactic this past year,
Sure.
and then if people have questions, just go from there, because they don't know what they don't know yet.
That's also true.
Yeah.
So from the student's perspective, the first year is extremely difficult. You're managing the change from being a professional, from being a nurse, a bedside nurse, to being a professional student. And you're going from what you remember from like undergrad courses to now it's a graduate level course. It's kind of funny, we were talking about it yesterday that, in undergraduate, you were kind of spoon-fed what you needed to know. Before every exam, like the professor would give you a study guide, and it might be 3 pages long, and that study guide was literally what the exam was. Whereas here, you're a graduate student. At the end of the day, at the end of the 3-year journey, you get to put on the fancy doctor robes, you get to put on the fancy doctor hat, you walk across the stage, they give you the paper and call you doctor. And that's pretty elite status. You have to earn that. So you are not spoon-fed anything in this program. So you have to study everything. Everything is fair game. So that transition of trying to figure out, okay, how do I study now? Because I was talking to a couple of the new students yesterday, and one of them told me, he was like, I don't know how to study. I don't know how to write notes, because I didn't have to write notes in nursing school. It came so easy, and I just studied, looked at the study guide, and took the test and got an A. So that transition is pretty tough. There's going to be a lot of growing pains with it. And I'll let my wife talk about it, because like the first month is probably the biggest like speed bump that you'll get to just like initially, and you'll have bumps in the road later on as well as we get more and more and more and more and more and more stressed. But yeah, I'll let you talk about that first month.
Oh, that first month. Okay. He is completely right. It was very interesting to just watch him shift into graduate student mode. It was an interesting shift in dynamics, because for me, having him as an ICU nurse, he was on for 3 days and then home the rest of the time. And that was always a big shift in terms of, well, he's the savory chef in our family. So that was kind of awkward, like, okay, well, what are we going to do about meals now? And it wasn't that I didn't take it seriously, but it was just a shock of like, oh, like your studies are a full-time job now. they're very serious, and they say that to you all here, and it's actually very true. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to another student because I want you guys to get their perspective. I have more time also after this.
Just like a piece of advice to piggyback off like the stress and like shifting into grad student mode and that kind of thing, and like how I tried to like still make my relationship a priority. So in professional aspects, we had to do this assignment where you like schedule everything hour by hour of your day and like plan out when you're going to study, when you have class, that kind of thing. And then about September, late September, early October, I was realizing like I'm not giving Andrew the time I used to and that kind of thing. And I was like, I need to still like make school a priority, but also like make sure he knows that like, you know, I appreciate him supporting me and that kind of thing. And I would literally like schedule in time. Like I'm going to like ask him how his day is, like 8 to 9, or like do something with him. And that really helped us. So little nugget there.
See, now I can piggyback off that piece very gracefully. There has to be a lot of intentionality on both ends. It's not just on your loved one student who is like in the thick of something new. You're in the thick of something new too. And so there are going to be those growing pains. I think if I had to leave you with anything, it's lots of grace to be given on both ends because you're learning a new routine, a new life for the next 3 years. Patience, assume give your partner, your person, whoever they are in your life, give them the benefit of the doubt. They are trying their absolute best, and over communicate. It's going to be very intentional to spend time with one another. Whatever your life was before, it's different now. Find what is important to you guys and make that the priority. So for example, for us, we're big moviegoers, and so that was something that we prioritize. Like if there's a date night possibility, that's what we would get to do. In terms of like him cooking, I took on some more cooking. It's not that I'm bad at it. He enjoys it a lot more than I do.
She's the baker.
I'm the baker. And so, okay, well, I'll take on a couple of meals, and we'll make some of the other meals a little bit more simple so that you're not in the kitchen for that long. And then the best example for the over-communication is this. When we first got started, the first couple of weeks of school felt kind of easy breezy. They hadn't really gotten that first exam yet. It's going to be the first Schmidt test, I hear, is what's going to kill them. And so...
That's anatomy.
Anatomy of physiology.
There you go, A and P. But anyway, so as we were going through those first couple of weeks, it didn't feel too much different. I was like, oh, you're home, you're at school, it's great. But then that first big thing came, and so we had a year of entertainment last year. We had lots of concerts planned ahead of time, a couple of musicals, and these are things that you guys probably, if you do those kind of things, you bought tickets like 9 months in advance, 6 months in advance, maybe when they were first applying to the program. And at first it was like, oh no, like I can study around that concert. Don't worry about it, it's fine. And we got to the day of the concert and it all kind of just blew up in our faces. He was panicked. The very first exam was coming up that next week. And he's like, I'm so sorry. It's like a couple of hours before the concert. Can I stay home? I was like, come on. It's 3 hours before the concert. And so we learned that very first time of like, okay, big events that matter to both of us, like let's set new guidelines around our communication. So from then forward, it was like, okay, if it's a big event that we had already pre-planned, we'll do a cutoff of like 48 hours before the event. Make the call. I won't hold it against you. It's okay if our plans change, but give me enough time to shift, right? To find someone else to go with or to sell those tickets and just like move on. And so that over communication is what I'm kind of highlighting for you guys. And the grace, because he had an exam. He kindly came with me that one time and was actually studying in between like the opening act and like Sam Smith. So it was a lot, but you guys will get there. You love that person, love them through this. It's 3 years. You can do anything for those 36 months.
So yeah, piggybacking off of that, like I said, the communication is such a key, and also prioritize, like Chelsea was saying, like having like set priority times to like get away from studying. So despite what maybe some of the professors believe, you can't study the entire time you're awake. Believe me, I tried, it failed. So you
I tell you that.
You did. I said some professors,
I was
not
like,
you.
hold on, time out.
Not you.
Wait a minute.
But in that same professional aspects assignment, like Dr. Erickson tells us, like, hey, like write out everything that you're going to do. If you're going to take a break, write that you're going to take a break. Write what you're going to do as that break. And then it like Lena was saying, like if you prioritize going to like seeing movies, like say, you know what, on Friday afternoon after you get home from Dr. Schmidt's class, we'll find a 5 o'clock movie once you get home, and we'll go do that, and that will be your break, and then you can come home and get back to studying. Finding those little bits of nuggets of joy and relaxation are very, very essential. You don't lose your entire life, you just lose most of it.
It's true though.
I guess, do you guys have any questions for us before we have to head out to class or anything? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for the recording, the question was, what was the best thing that my spouse did for me to help keep me going and everything? Loving me despite my grumpiness was a huge thing, because when I get stressed, I get very, very grouchy and very short. And there were so many times that she would ask me a question and I would snap back at her, and then as soon as I said it, I'm like, why was I so mean there? She was just asking me a simple question. Doing that, and then like the little things, like so our original like balance of chores and cooking, like one of I love cooking. I love cooking for her. But her saying, hey, you know what, let me take a couple of those meals off of your plate. Let me help. I'll do some more of like the meal planning for the week. Like I'll come up with like the ideas and you just have to like, help me grocery shop or something like that. Just finding those little tiny things, those like everyday things to kind of take off of their plate so that they can focus more on studying and being in that student mode.
A big thing for us was chore redistribution. So when I was working bedside, I worked 3 or 4 days and then was off to do most of everything. So having to go from that to Andrew like picking up more, doing the dishes, cooking most of the meals, that kind of thing. I still helped out when I could, especially if I had like a more free week, just to show like I'm really appreciative of this. But like on those really busy weeks, he would do most of it. And that was a big thing for like an acts of service person like I am. Another thing, whenever I would be like kind of paralyzed with anxiety and just like studying wasn't even working, I was just like staring at the book, reading the words over and over, he would come in and like rub my shoulder and be like, Chelsea, hundreds have done this before you and hundreds are going to do this after you. Like, you're not alone. This is hard for a reason. Like, other people have thought this is hard too. Like, and that would kind of unparalyze me and keep me going. So I think that phrase is something that like constantly sticks with me that he would say. Yeah.
I guess this could be for all members, but I think the perspective on the new students as well. What are some signs that we should be on the lookout for our students that they may be are adjusting to this adjustment? We're going to be adjusting as well, but of course they're taking on a whole new burden. What are some signs that we should be on the lookout for? Just that maybe we need to communicate more, or step up more, or something like that.
Just like some signs of stress, and honestly, like some people in this program lost so much weight. I didn't. I like stress ate, but like just looking at those kind of things, like maybe, yeah, just seeing if like those kind of habits change or like sleeping habits change, and like gracefully, gently being like, hey, like, is there a point today that we could like go on a walk or something together for like 30 minutes, just real quick, just to like reset. Those are like the main things I can think of.
The snappiness was real.
I'm sorry.
No, I think that what Chelsea said is really important. You know, you look at the foundational things of stress. Each one of your loved ones expresses their stress differently. Nothing that we say is going to cover every single person that you love that's in the program. But pay attention to like those foundational behaviors like sleep, eating habits, the snappy or grouchiness, the random like little like I guess like the snappy outbursts, I guess. But the biggest thing is also none of us are mind readers. If you secretly have a superpower, that's really awesome, but the average person does not. And it goes both ways. And so one of the things that I personally tried to do was not assume that they were stressed, but kind of ask like, hey, like, what do you need right now? And if they don't know what they need, give them the space and say, hey, well, I'm available. Like, I'm going to be around. Here's what we can do. Let me know if you change your mind. So also being able to kind of step away and give that space when it's needed.
Yeah, that was like pretty much it. You know, if you see changes in like the foundational habits, like obviously that's a pretty big sign. But kind of going back to that over communication part of it too, like, you know, we were already pretty good about like checking in with each other about like, hey, how was your day? Like, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on? She's very interested in like what I was learning. And so, you know, she could tell, like, there were times where, you know, she would ask me, hey, like, you know, what did Dr. Schmidt teach you today? And I could go off on this little, like, you know, nerdy rabbit hole of, like, what we learned. But then there were some days that I was just like, oh, we talked about electrolytes. And then that would kind of cue her in more like, okay, you're not really talking very much. Like, what's going on? What's stressing you out? What's going on? And then from that, like, okay, well, how can I help you? Like, what can I take off of your plate? So that was pretty good. Yeah.
So keep in mind that this process, so we make it sound, I don't necessarily need this, I talk about enough.
Ken's
For the recording.
Okay, for Ken. But it is a Herculean feat, academic feat, to become a doctor and go through this process. Like, your person that you're here for, you love them, right? Like, the reason that you're here sitting here today is that you want to gain some tools or insight on the process and know what it's like and how you can be helpful or supportive. Keep in mind that you are a person too, and that you have needs and you're going to need attention and those things. Just don't think that when your spouse, significant other, child, maybe your parent, maybe there's somebody in here that you're supporting your parent, is not giving you that attention and they're really focused on studying. Like, it really is like the analogy you made before about like it being spoon-fed to you in nursing school. And not that nursing school is easy by any stretch of the imagination. Let's not degrade what nurses do and how hard it is to become a nurse. But it is completely a degree different, and not to make a pun there, but seriously, the analogy you could use is like if at nursing school they give you a menu and you can pick from a meal to choose from, and you have to consume that meal and learn everything about that meal. That's one thing. Here they're going to give you the ingredients to that meal. They're going to expect you to be able to put those ingredients together in the right manner and proportions that you could feed it to somebody else. And that is a huge, huge responsibility. I mean, it's not like to say that we have people's lives in our hands every day. Like, we know this for sure as we've now practiced anesthesia, at least somewhere in the realms of about 1,000 cases. You really do have people's lives in your hands every day, so it's a really heavy weight to assume. But that person, your support person or support people, in my case, I had 2 kids and my wife. I have a family, obviously, like everyone else, but those signs that you're looking for, everybody's going to be different. You know your person better than anybody, right? Hopefully. You know if they're irritable, if they're not irritable, if they're kind of keeping to themselves, whatever the thing is. They are going to be consumed in the first 2 semesters for sure with the academics. Like, some people are, maybe there's a 1 person in 100 who this comes easy to them. There was maybe 1 or 2 people in our class that way. Two, we know them both, Alex and Michael, maybe Ethan. But the 3, and I know all of them very well. They're all friends of mine. But some of those people, it can come in their eyes and in their ears, and it's in their brain forever, and they can just do that. I'm 46 years old. I came at this late in life, so yeah, there's people dumb enough like that to do that. I mean, I came at 43. I'm 46 now. But and we all learn differently. Like I'm a hardback paper book, highlight, read, handwrite things out kind of person. The newer age people can do everything online and type their notes, iPads. I learned to use an iPad to learn a new way to learn. It's kind of that first class that they're going to take with Dr. Erickson is going to kind of get their minds in that, hey, how do I learn things? How should I set up this study plan kind of thing? And they'll change it 10 times. Like, I thought maybe I want to study in a group. Like, maybe that'll be good for me. That wouldn't be good for me. I talk too much. And I learn things easily, like concepts very easily. But I'm not good at regurgitating, like, just knowledge, like data. Like, I know I could probably talk on ad nauseum about this, but to encapsulate it all, give them grace, but don't forget that you're a person, that you have needs, responsibilities, your kids, your family members. Like, remember that you need things too, and don't be afraid to remind your person of that. Like I said, I was on both sides of it as a spouse supporting my wife and kids, and then I was a student also supporting my wife and kids because she was still in school for part of it. And then in the last year, she's had to kind of take that role and be more of a super mom than I already thought she was, to take care of me and the kids and work and support us financially and all those things. So just keep that in mind, like yourself, the people that you care about, and that person who's going through this process. Because when it's all said and done, it'll be absolutely worth it, I promise you. Like, I haven't started working yet, and it's not all about the money, but the money is really, really nice. The things that the money gives you is really, really nice. The freedom. But like they were saying, the couple was saying before, like, we found Sundays as maybe that's a day you go to church or whatever it is that you do with your family. We try to keep one day a week where we would purposely put all of our work ahead of time, everything we could do before Sunday, so that we could spend Sunday together and go do something that had nothing to do with anesthesia. Because you're going to get tired of hearing about anesthesia. Your person's going to come home and be like, this, that, and the next thing about propofol or putting somebody to sleep or PKA values, and you're going to be like, I don't want to hear about this anymore. My wife often tells me, and we both do this, but my wife often tells me, like, I don't want to talk about work. I don't want to talk about work at all today. And that's fine. We'll talk about work tomorrow when she wants to talk about work.
I feel like it's like also important to, like, you guys seem like very organized and like, oh, you plan out your Sundays. I am not that person. Yeah. I am like a procrastinator to, like, it just, no matter what,
she's my child.
I will procrastinate to not study. So I wasn't able to plan those days with my boyfriend and my family and do those things. So you have to give grace to those people that aren't like that, because I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to give every Sunday to somebody. That just is not how I am, not how I'm wired. So it was really nice for my boyfriend to just kind of say, he could tell when I was stressed. Okay, just go sit in your room and study and give me time, and not put the pressure to hang out or do something, because it's a lot to plan it. Once you start taking tests, I think in the fall, the first test is 3 weeks in, that you have a test every single week for the first 12 months. It's really tough.
And every one of them matters. Like,
every one of them
it's
matters.
Not like there's a test that you're like, oh, well, this one's doesn't really, this one's fine, I can blow it off. Like, you can't.
Yeah. That was just my little tidbit. I was like, just don't make them, not everyone's going to be the same in the fact that they can give you a Sunday every week. I wasn't able to do that.
There are good points in this program. It sounds dismal when we're saying all this, right? But truthfully, like, they're going to come home and they're going to have big wins. They're going to do really, really well on that anatomy and physiology test. And they're going to be like, man, I really learned this and I felt really, really good. Or I did really good on this project. Or that they worked really, really hard on, because there's going to be some projects that they have to work on for weeks at a time.
Test was on a Tuesday, and then you want to go have dinner on that Tuesday. That works.
Yeah.
And the next
Celebrate
week
those
it's gonna
wins.
Be a Thursday,
Celebrate those wins. They're your wins too. But keep that in mind. There are good points. And we can talk a little bit more about, like, vacations and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know how much they touched on this before. Like, when they say that you study all day, you study all day. Your partner is going to be consumed by it. Like, everybody's different. Everybody studies a little bit differently. They manage their time a little differently. When I did didactic, I would come in an hour before class. I'd go to the library. I'd kind of review my stuff. You go to class from 8 to 5, 10 to 5. I don't know. They're here forever. And then after 5, after 7 p.m., I would stay until 10 p.m., till 12 a.m. I'd stay up here to get my studying done because this is where I could study. But like your partner is going to be consumed a lot with those study hours. It's not just like, oh, you went to class. Yay, you're done for the day. You're not done. They're not done. They're going to come home and sit and study. They may have a breakdown. There may be some tears. That's okay. Let the tears come. We all talked about how everybody handles the stress differently. Withdrawing from you, I'm going to speak about that just because that's how I was. As a student, I kind of secluded into myself a little bit from my husband just because it was just a little too much. Like, you're being bombarded with so much information and putting so much time and effort into this, you kind of run out of juice. Like, I've given everything into my studies. I have no more juice to give. He's like, oh, what do you want for dinner? I have no clue. What do you want to watch? I have no clue. Well, what do I need to do for you? I have no clue. I don't know. Don't ask me, pick something. I don't care. I have no more decisions left in me. And then especially...
I feel like, and this might be like us coming off of like clinical portion of it, but
That's a whole different.
clinical portion's a little bit more stressful.
Yeah. So, and then, we can talk more about
Because
that
when
too.
they're in clinical, they're still taking class.
Yeah.
And
so
they're still writing a research paper.
Yeah.
So clinical is not some, I'm going to work. No, because they got to show up early before
Yeah.
their doctor, before their CRNA, set up their room, know their meds, know their patients. If they have a crappy day at clinical, you're going to feel it. You're
Yeah.
going to see it,
And
and
it doesn't-
it's not going to be good.
And it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't stop when their clinical day stops. Like,
Because they're gonna have to come home and prepare for cases for tomorrow.
yep, and that
You
takes...
go home, document all the things you did that day. Then you have to prepare for all the cases the next day.
Yep.
And you still have homework to do that next.
This program kind of does us a little bit of a disservice, if I could say this out loud. It's not really
No.
disparaging the program, but
I went through the same program.
And I'll say this for the experience of it, right? So the first 2 semesters, very intense didactic learning. You'll be learning maybe things they already know. They'll be relearning them to a much, much deeper molecular level, receptor level. It's kind of ridiculous, like the amount of knowledge that we gained in this time. Then the summer comes, it gets a little bit lighter that first year.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily, I think that it's even lighter, it's just that they've learned to accommodate all this new knowledge and how much it comes at you. And you'll see a change in your person that they've kind of got it. Like they've understood how to study, they kind of figured out how to navigate this didactic portion of it. And then the fall comes, that the semester which her husband is entering. And that's the okie doke. So like, not that the classes are easy, but you've learned how to do all the learning. You know how you need to study. And you know how to manage your time. If you haven't figured it out, you're not in the program anywhere by now. And there may be a few people who don't make it, and that's okay because there's 100 people in here, and this isn't for everybody, and maybe it's not the right time in life and those kind of things. So if that happens to your loved one, don't think less of them. This is a very, very difficult process. But you kind of settle into like, oh man, I have a lot more free time. If that is the time you want to schedule
The concert.
a concert, the vacation,
That's the semester.
that's the start of their second year, that's the time to do it. That fall semester, that 4 months,
Online.
if you can't
Yeah.
force them to take a break, because once you get to clinical, you get 20 days that you can take off of clinical total. That's sick days, vacation days, holidays,
Emergency days.
Keep that in mind.
Study days.
And it's hard for you to be like, oh, I'm going to take a week. Your clinical site has to approve that. They have to, there's lots of things that
And
go into that.
they still have class. Like,
And you still have class.
you're taking tests up until the day you graduate. Like,
So-
you're not, they won't be done.
So to finish the thought on the okie doke, like they're gonna have this little period, he's gonna have this period where he has like a lot more time and he can take a little vacation or whatever. If they don't stay in the mindset that this is as serious as it is, when you get to clinical, it's a kick in the teeth. Because you should have been preparing for clinicals in that 4 months. In classes, and things that aren't being taught in class anymore, but things that you should know already. Your pharmacology should be hands down, you should know everything about the pharmacology by the time you get to clinicals. That's the one thing that will get you messed up in clinical immediately.
This probably just feels like the students more than.
Yeah.
No, it is, but my point is, like, you're gonna be there and just kind of think about that a year from now. Like, hey, you wanna look at something, you know, other than.
It might be hard to
our
like
vacation.
conceptualize that because you're like, oh, it's a year from now,
Yeah.
but like that, a year will come and go real quick.
I feel like it kind of broke the program up a little bit. Too.
Yeah.
Like the whole first 12 months were really tough. It was hard school. And then we had like an easy semester. We were able to
Yeah.
do some things. I was able to go back to Mississippi, visit my family, and then started clinicals at the next semester. And it was 20 months of really tough.
Yeah. The 20 months of clinical is pretty, it can be pretty rough, pretty tough. Especially when they're getting their like main clinical sites and then they're getting their rotation sites, because I don't believe they know what the rotation sites are going to be like at the moment.
No.
Yeah. So like they won't get to find those out until after these 12 months of didactic is over. And some people were a little more blessed than others when it came to rotations. I stayed at Harris for everything but 2 rotations. So I stayed there for 16 months out of the 20 months and got blessed to be able to stay here and not have to move around. There are students that had to move around every couple of months because they had clinical rotations in a different state. And that does get really tough. Just speaking from like friends in the program that had to move around a whole lot because they had to go to those different clinical sites. And the clinical part is kind of where they are going to be more exhausted. Like, yes, ma'am.
Do you recommend, like, for example, we're going to Arrowhead in California. We're from California, living back there, what happens to work, but one of the rotations will be back here. Would you, and I work from home, so that's helpful, but would you recommend during those clinicals for me to go with them, or like?
You're not going to see him.
You're not going to see them.
So when they go to it won't matter. It won't matter because where they're going, they work like dogs.
Yeah.
And meaning that they're sun up, sundown. They just need to knock out and grind that 2 months out.
Yeah.
And the thing is that what they're going to do at Arrowhead, they're going to go together in little groups, and it's going to be like a frat house. You don't need to be there.
No.
So you're fine. But
Yeah,
then they
no.
also have another rotation that they go to down south in Navy. They've got housing there, and they pay for all of that. So the thing is that when they come back to Texas, you guys have to pay for that, but Navy takes care of it whenever they go to Navy for OB. But Arrowhead, when they come to Texas, it's a different kind of animal for them because Arrowhead, it moves differently. And they're exhausted. Like, I see them all the time because all of my clinical groups are basically from California, and I'm like, you guys look like you're dying. Like, they have this shift where they're like, okay, they're happy in January, February, and they look dead. Like, they look like walking corpse. And I tell them that. I'm like, are you doing self-care? Yeah. Are you taking time? Are you sleeping? What's your blood pressure? Because I have a few that have high blood pressure that just developed it. So, and I'm like, are you checking your blood pressure? So every time I meet with them on Teams, I'm like, what's your blood pressure today? And I'm dead serious when I ask them that. And I'm
Some
like,
people check in a little more than others. But yeah, when they do those clinical rotations, they're not going to have time. So I went to Odessa for a month. I had a friend that lived up there, so I stayed with her. But Odessa does offer housing. Their CRNAs offer up housing, which is really nice. But they're busy. They're going to be busy from sun up till sundown. It's not because they don't love you and they don't want to spend time with you, but they literally just don't have the time. And so my main site was here in Fort Worth at Harris. I live another 30 minutes outside of Weatherford. For people who don't know where that is, it's 50 minutes from here. I got an apartment here, stayed in an apartment with another resident for clinical. Even though I live 50 minutes from here, I drove this when I worked here, but it's not the same. And your significant other, your spouse, your friend, whomever, is going to be so tired. I would come home after the start of clinical, go the 2 blocks to my apartment across from the hospital and pass out. I didn't say it. I would pass out at like 5 p.m. and be gone until 4 a.m. when I had to get up and go back to clinical. And then, and then other days you stay up. You get done at clinical at 5 p.m. and you're up for another 5 hours studying. You're up for another 5 hours logging your cases, studying for your next cases, because the things that we learn here in didactic, yes, carry over into clinical, but you're learning it's a whole different kind of learning when you're going into clinical. But just kind of give them a little bit of grace, because I know my husband will call me and be like, how's your day? I don't know. I don't even know what happened anymore. I'm tired. I don't even want to talk. We can sit on the phone. Let's be silent. Because you get a little burnt out. And I will say, like, the 6-month mark of clinical was about when I was feeling it.
Yeah.
Like, I came back from Odessa and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I am done. My brain hurts. My body hurts. I'm so tired. How am I going to make it through 14 more months of this? But you just keep going. You put your nose down to the grindstone and you just keep trucking. And then it feels like an eternity. But then all of a sudden you have 8 months left. It's January of your graduation year. You're almost there. And then it's 6 months. And then it's 4 months. And then it's a week. And you're like, thank God I'm done. And then you can breathe a little bit. And now you got to take boards.
But it never stops for them, unfortunately. Like, no. It's not, so that, the honeymoon period, or the epiphany that they're referring to, so for your student, it's going to be August to December of 25. So if you want to schedule something, that's the time to schedule it. If you want to do something, that's the time to do it. Any time after that, they're going to have to they'll have to die in order to do it.
Yeah, and the 20 days that, you're like, oh yeah, you get 20 vacation days.
Take them.
To have them take them, but also keep in mind they will get sick. Like, they're going to be burnt out. And there were some days that I had to take study. Yeah, like, so there was a day I was like, I called out a clinical because I had to study, because I was so panicked about a test that was coming up that.
Yeah, because our tests are at night. So we would have clinical all week that day, and then I'd go home and take a test that night.
Yeah.
And there'd be days where I was like, I'm not ready for this test, so I have to use a vacation day to study for the test that was that day.
Some people did that. They'd use their vacation days the day before the test.
Not necessarily getting 20 vacation days.
Yeah.
Like they're getting 20 days.
Or they get sick. I got sick with COVID for like a solid week during clinical, and that's 4 vacation days I had to use up. And it's not that I got to use them for fun things. I laid in bed and tried not to die. And then there was someone in my cohort, he was playing basketball and tore his ACL while he was playing basketball. And so if they use up those 20 days of vacation, and then they still are out for whatever reason, somebody died, somebody's sick, they have to make those clinical days up. So he had to stay a whole extra 2 weeks after the rest of us left, because we were done, to make up his clinical days. But, I mean, they get to make them up, but still it's not fun being like, oh, bye, friends. Yes, sir, back there. I leaned heavily on my husband. He's a great spouse. But I mean, I personally leaned really heavy on my spouse, just being like, I'm having such a terrible day. It's been real tough. He would just let me just spill whatever I was feeling. And then, there would be days where I'm like, I don't want to talk. And he's like, okay, don't talk. What, you want some wine? Do you want me to I'll make dinner for you. Let's go out to dinner and I'll go grab something. A lot of communication. I know they talked about it a whole lot, but, really and truly, like, having a good, solid, open line of communication between you and your significant other, because they can't read your mind and they're not going to want to. Like, they're going to be.
And at the end of the day, like, we want to do this. Like, this is like what we're going to school for. And like, once you start those clinicals, like you said, the first 3 months of clinicals was really, really tough, because you're kind of like thrown into a situation you don't know what's going on. There was a lot of days where I came home crying because I was just like mentally exhausted. But like, I want to do it and I wanted to be good at it. And I think that like we put pressure on ourselves to be perfect and be good at it. But like, at the end of the day, we were doing all this because we want to be.
And it will get better. They'll find their groove.
Yeah, that's why we're still pushing through.
This is why I wanted to do it. Like, they'll still have.
But there's no set time when people take off. Yeah. So the one thing I want you to remind your person is to stay their race, stay their course. They're going to be with people in their cohort that are great. Shoot for the moon, and they fly. And then maybe it takes them 6-8 months to get there because they can't get the takeoff and they're still just kind of hovering. It's okay. At the end of the day, the race there is no real race against each other. They're still going to be called a CRNA when they get through with this race. It's not a race. It's not a competition. It's okay. And they stress out about grades. It's because now it's changed, but they can only get 2 C's the entire program. 2 C's. And they have to maintain a 3.0 GPA. If at any point they don't maintain that 3.0 GPA after that first year, they're dismissed from the program. If at any point they get a 3rd C, they're dismissed from the program. So that is why they stress out so much about grades, because every test is important, every test matters, because for some of them it's a margin of error that is this small. I've had to dismiss a student this past summer because they didn't meet the cut. About 10%, we lose about 10% of the class without fail.
And
every year.
Your student spouse, like they're used to being one of the smartest people in the room.
Yeah.
Like, shush. Anyways, like, and you probably also think they're one of the smartest people. They're like, oh, like my husband tells me all the time, he's like, you're the smartest person I know. And I'm like, okay, well, come see the rest of my class because they're way smarter than I am. It is a kick in the teeth when you come into class and you're like, I am not the smartest person in the room at all. And like they may have been straight A students in nursing school and breezed right on through it. It is not the same. Like you're going to be humbled. They will be humbled and they will have a bad grade and they will probably have a meltdown about it.
So it's just, it really is very stressful. This first 6 weeks, you're going to see a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. And then, do.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to hope that somebody else can answer that question because my child was 10 when I started, or 9 whenever I started, so she was pretty self-sufficient by the time we got going.
I would say that the thing that if she's a daddy's girl, like you said, your husband is gonna have to figure out a time to make for the kids. Like my kids are teenagers now. They were 10 and 13 when I started school. They were a little younger when my wife started school, a year younger than that. But he's going to have to make time. So for me to make that time I wanted to be a good father, a good husband, a good student. I want to be a good resident and now CRNA wants to take boards. I had to be present and mindful of my time. Like she was saying, she didn't plan all those things. She didn't have the same, necessarily life things pulling her, family things pulling her. But he's going to have to make the time. So I would get up at 4 a.m. and study until I came to school. And then I would be at school and treat it like a job every day. I'd come to school until school was over. And then I would come home and sometimes to my detriment, I would put it away until tomorrow. And then I'd study again from 4 a.m. until 8. And I came to class, or 9 if we had class at 9 or something. But he's going to have to figure out how to make that time so that you can be present when you're home with them. And if they're little, they probably go to bed early. Maybe you can pick up studying again after they go to bed. And I said I was in the military for 20 years before I decided to make this crazy choice. So I had to navigate those things also in that time of my life when they were little. I spent a lot of time deployed also, but
it's doable though.
People had kids in school, which I think is absolutely bonkers. And I'm not just that had them at home, but the residents that had the kid, and I'm I can't imagine that. That is just insane to me. I do want to touch on one thing, and then I'll let everybody else talk because I can talk forever. Something that we didn't talk about, I've come and talked to a couple different classes, but finances. So the thing that probably is going to be the biggest stress in your life outside of the feeling distance from your loved ones and they're being completely consumed by this process is things are not getting cheaper. Obviously, school gets a little bit more expensive every semester. Going on those rotations, you have to find lodging in some places and pay for it. think about these things now. Start thinking about your budget and how you can budget that out so you don't feel as stressed about it, because that's going to be one of the things that like is an easy sticking point in any relationship, right? Is the cost of things. And if you feel like, oh, we used to have so much more fun and get to go out, and maybe you don't have that kind of, same financial situation. I'm not going to say don't take huge amounts of loans, because the return on investment from this is greater than any other job in existence. So if you have to keep and maintain a comfortable life, to be less stressed about bills, you and your spouse take those extra loans necessary to maintain your life to some semblance of normalcy. I would say do it, and don't feel terrible that you took $200,000 to get through this process, or $250,000 to get through this process. Some people do that. But the return on investment will be great enough that it won't feel so cumbersome when they're done. There'll be bonuses paid out at first jobs. There'll be loan repayments paid out at first jobs. There will be opportunities to make an exorbitant amount of money in their career after this. So don't be afraid to take those loans, to have that one less thing to be worried about, because that is a big, big worry, especially if you have family, to take care of your kids and make sure your mortgage is paid, or your rent, or your car note, or something happens and your car gets broken and you have to be at clinical at 4 in the morning, like those things. Don't be afraid to have that, and put some money aside for those emergencies. But like something for sure to think about.
Yes, ma'am.
Along that line, so you already have a job and you just graduated Saturday?
I had a job last year.
Offer jobs. Probably the moment that they show promise at their clinical site,
Yeah.
someone's going to go, this person would be a good fit here.
Yeah.
And they're, not to say not to do it, but there's people who got offered jobs at the very, very beginning of clinicals. And there's some people who took those jobs because that place, that they would pay them a stipend. And maybe that's part of your financial plan, is like, hey, I need that $1,000 a month to help subsidize our life to the end of this thing, and then I'm taking a job here at the end.
Yeah.
Now that's all conditional that you finish and pass school and all your clinical requirements.
You don't take the, I don't know what the test is called.
The NC, the national.
Yeah. So there's like it's a certifying exam that essentially like
They don't take it until after they graduate, and then no.
So if you get to this point, graduate, and you have to take your boards, to become a CRNA. So we all have our doctorates, and we're doctors of anesthesia practice, but we're not CRNAs yet. Until you take your boards, you're not certified.
You're not certified, licensed.
They can go back to work as RNs if they choose, but which is fine.
We had a friend who.
So they have a job, they just can't start.
Yes. So like you don't have to worry about trying to find that job. Some people took a little bit longer than others because they were.
We all signed up. He's taking his boards next week. It'll probably take a couple of months for everything to be credentialed, and then he can start working.
Yeah. Honestly, by the time they graduate in August, most of them will probably be working by the 1st of October. If they pass boards, credentialing is pretty much done. All they need is board certification.
Yeah.
So their jobs are plentiful. This is a great market because MDs are very expensive. CRNAs are not as expensive as MDs. And honestly, the future is moving more toward a mid-level. And they are making more now, or at least we are, me, or everybody. Y'all will too, eventually. But the experienced ones are making a ton. And so when they gain that experience, and depending on what they want to do, I mean, endless limits. They can make upwards of $350 to $450K a month. I mean, not a month. That'd be ridiculous.
Right
but
there.
That's with outside stuff. That's with outside stuff.
Yeah.
But there are jobs, and there are jobs that are plentiful. Like, there was somebody that started clinical in January. She took a job in March. So
what is a realistic expectation of their first job?
I'm starting my job in November. That's when I'm assigned to start. And to be honest, I don't want to start before that because it's been so crazy that I kind of need a break.
yeah, it just depends on the person. Like,
Pay-wise.
oh, pay-wise, that's 3 years from now. So the job market is going to vary.
Roughly the floor now, national average, the floor is about 202. That's before bonuses, that's before sign-ons, that's before specialty pay if you do Yeah, it'll probably be
But it pays off. Like
It'll be enough
what
to
you end
survive.
up having to like take out to be able to cover for school. Like
Yeah.
it'll be. And I wanted to touch on that because Ray was talking about that because even though my husband and I saved up a lot of money to pay for school and to be like kind of settled when school got started, my husband lost his job like the first 6 months of school and didn't have a job for almost a year. And so we lived off of student loans for a year, which was really tough. And I know Ray was talking about like just the financial burden of it. It is really hard. But those student loans can help get you through that. And that's what they're there for. And, you know, my husband was finally able to get another job, but then also got laid off of that job. So we went through 2 layoffs during school. And that's pretty tough. And I know that, you know, that puts a burden on a significant other and you, but the student loans are there to kind of help buffer that. And I know it's a lot. It's a lot to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be $200K in the hole, or I'm going to be $300K in the hole. It's money. It looks astronomical, but
You can take it all and not spend it.
you can take it all, and like we squirreled away some to make sure that we could make it through. You know, the couple months of me getting credentialed and starting and being able to, you know, survive up until working. But that first paycheck's going to hit and it'll be wonderful. And also, you know, you pay it back eventually.
I know a lot of you guys are landing jobs at your clinical site, like networking and things like that, but what about people that want to work elsewhere when they graduate?
This school will set them up very, very well during
Yeah.
before their clinical year starts, or their clinical 20-month starts. During the symposium, there will be all kinds of hiring people here.
Yeah.
Propositioning your loved ones in places near to where they
Yep.
train, maybe other places. Literally, if you put your name or your CV out, and there's a whole class that they take on writing your CV and all that kind of stuff to like get you in the mindset of getting a job.
People will come for you. They will find you and be like, hey, where are you working?
Carrying many gifts and many
Yes.
dinner out and fly you to Florida to
A bunch of pins. Yes.
They'll fly you to their site to see what their site is like. And smooth
They will schmooze them a little bit
You
to
might take some of those vacation days to do that. Like
Yeah.
Say, okay, I think we want to move to South Carolina.
yeah. And it's a small world too. So
Groups will, you will be surprised how much they chase after your loved one for employment.
Right, and I will say I got overwhelmed with looking for jobs. There were just way too many that I just stayed with my clinical site. That's really what it was. I wanted to move back to Houston,
I
but
stayed here because my kids are in high school.
I
wanted
had
to graduate.
way too many to filter from, too many to look at, too many options. I didn't think I understood too well. I was like, you know what you know is always the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. So I'll just stay here. So that's pretty much how.
And keep in mind that like when it comes down to picking a job, it's not just the pay, right? So like, and your
Yeah.
person will know this, and if you've worked anywhere, you know, like work environment is very important. Do you like the people that you're with 40, 60 hours a week? The pay obviously is important. Benefits, packages, whether they offer those bonuses to pay back your loans that you took, or bonuses for whatever.
there's a lot of other factors that
Their
go into the
time
job
off.
than
Some places
just
offer 10 weeks off a year. Some places offer 5 weeks off a year. So what's more important?
Yeah.
You know? Location
Yeah.
would be one of the more important things. Autonomy. They'll know what this means for sure when they get into the clinical world.
Toxicity.
But autonomy is a big thing. So CRNAs can do everything that an anesthesiologist can do. There are some models in which you could work and you don't get to do those things. That's a personal choice. Like, I would never work in one of those places. I work at JPS, you can do everything that an anesthesiologist can do, from the pre-op to the post-op evaluation and everything in between. If it's regional anesthesia, neuraxial anesthesia, general anesthesia, if there's something that can be done in anesthesia, we can do it at JPS. That's one of the reasons I chose JPS. It's the autonomy, the culture, the people.
I see you back there.
The pay was on the lower end, to be honest, of the other places that offered me jobs. But the compensation is less important for me. I'm retired military. I get a pension and stuff. My wife is also CRNA, so that changes that dynamic stuff for me. But keep that in mind when you're thinking about like where you want to be is your person going to get all the things that they want in their job? And if you can get 2 or 3 of those 4 things, take that job. If you can get all 4 of those jobs, all those things in the job, don't leave that job ever.
You had a question back there?
Yeah. Does autonomy differ by state?
By hospital.
By hospital.
It can differ
and
by
state.
hospital.
Hospital and state.
Yeah.
So there's opt in and opt out. They won't learn this till like a year and a half
Just
from now, but
it just varies.
yeah. So the law in some states says CRNAs must practice under a physician. Doesn't mean anesthesiologist.
Texas is one.
Texas is one of them, but there are provisions outside of study centers, outside of institutional licensure, those kind of things change the dynamic. And you'll hear.
I mean, there's just differences between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Yeah.
So
There is
just
between Fort Worth and Fort Worth.
it's complete. It just varies, but they'll figure out what they like, and then they'll find what they like. Hopefully, they'll discuss it with you, and you guys will make an educated choice together. But it's not ball and chain forever. If they don't like the job, I hopefully tell them to please try and stay for the first year. Anesthesia is a large community, but it's a small community. You don't want to burn a bridge.
Yes.
Because 2 or 3 people I know across the state, they know somebody in Minnesota. They know somebody in New York. They know somebody in California. And then wildfire. And so always put their best foot forward, because the person that you're meeting could be the next person that's introducing you to the CEO of another place that you probably want to work at. So never
Or
burn
the
a bridge.
connections from before when they were nurses. Like
True.
there are CRNAs that I know now, like from whenever I was a baby nurse, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you want to come work over here?" Well, I hadn't thought about it, but no, thank you.
And don't not let them necessarily take the first shiny toy that someone offers them, because that clinical site is going to probably be the lower end of it when they offer something, and somebody across the street may offer way more. Just keep that in mind. Like don't jump the gun if you do feel that financial pressure to like make a decision. Some of us just recently chose jobs.
There are a lot of jobs.
A lot of my friends had jobs months ago, and I pushed it off.
There are people in graduation who haven't taken a job yet, but they know they can have one tomorrow.
Yeah. So.
It's literally like a 2-year from now conversation. Like you don't need to worry about it.
Yes, ma'am.
So you and your husband, like, I know y'all were only like 2 minutes apart. Wait, did he live here in that apartment, or?
No, so my husband stayed at home in our home outside of Weatherford, and I stayed in an apartment during the week with another resident because she also lived 2 hours from her clinical site. And so her and I split that apartment, but I had 2 mortgages for a hot second. But I split it with somebody else. But when I say that took off so much took off a burden, I would do it over again in a heartbeat. It sucked being away from my husband, and being away from my kid. But, that 2 hours of drive time for me, not having to drive outside of Weatherford every single day after clinical, especially those first couple months, was a lifesaver, because I don't know if I would have actually survived it. Because you're so tired that, if we could have, we probably would have moved closer, but that just wasn't in the cards for us. But I went to clinical Tuesday through Friday. For the most part of my clinical rotation there. And so I stayed at the apartment Monday night through until Friday. Friday I got off of clinical. I went home for the weekend. I still went home and studied, but I also really kind of dedicated that time when I was at home with my family and gave them that time, because while I was staying here in town, I studied, and I really worked hard while I was here in town and kind of made that still study time, even though I was done with clinical.
Okay, so I still live in San Antonio. Thankfully, I'm a nurse, so I can take my 4 days off to come up here and visit my husband. We're just trying to figure out expectations.
Tell them to take a job at university. They pay on things.
Well, I mean, yeah, I want him to work there, but we're just trying to figure out expectations. Is it unrealistic to come up here every month and see him?
It's not there. It's once a month. It really isn't, because even whenever I went to Odessa for a rotation, and my husband came up and visited me, and I still gave him a little bit of time, whenever I was doing that rotation, but
once a month is totally.
Once a month is. I mean, that you need to be very conscientious with that time. That is the time you're dedicating to each other. Make sure he makes that time for you too, and kind of use it to its fullest potential.
Will he be in clinicals here also? also?
No, we're moving to Shreveport next year.
To Shreveport, okay.
So do you mean
So just
like
during
coming during didactic?
Yeah, just didactic.
I do think it's
I think it's important that you do, but the thing is that you guys have to look at his
Look at
study
his academic
schedule, look
schedule.
at his exam schedule.
Right.
You need to be cognizant and aware of what his schedule looks like. He's gonna know exactly how he needs to study and what's gonna look like in these next 3 to 4 weeks.
I was in a
Think
long
about,
distance
like,
relationship.
After test days, like if there's a test, maybe like that you're usually close to the end of the week, not always. But
Tuesday, Thursday.
like try to schedule that time if you're gonna come, like when he might have some time
Like after,
available.
Right.
after the anatomy.
So you don't feel like you came up here, spent 5 hours driving, and then it's I don't even get to spend time with you because you got to study.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what I was expecting, like just seeing him for like dinner and like cooking.
Right.
With another CRNA.
My boyfriend lives in Sacramento, so the whole 3 years we were in a long distance relationship, and I actually found didactic a lot easier to be able to see him than during clinical, because I didn't really have any time during clinical because I think we had Thursdays off, and that's not realistic to make a trip on a Thursday, and then Saturday, Sunday I dedicated that to studying. So during didactic, at least there was like a Friday that we could get off a little early, and then I would fly out, or he would be in, or something like that. But I found didactic a little easier for him to come around, and so it's very doable.
That was kind of my question, is like, it sounds like clinicals are gonna be worse time-wise.
They were in the first 4 months. After
I
that,
feel like they were.
It
We're going
changed.
to, we've got 2 kids under 4, and we're going to Shreveport as well, and so it just kind of sounds like we'll see each other a lot less.
When clinical first starts, it just takes up so much time. Sorry, yell. It just takes up so much time because you're there. Like they're gonna show up at clinical super early. Like they're gonna be getting there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to get set up and get ready, and then they're gonna be there until 5 p.m. and then they're going to go
7
or 9. Yeah, but they're gonna be there all day. And then they're going to have to go home and they're going to have to study and they're going to have to prep for their cases for the next day and they're going to have to prep for their tests later on that week. And it's really just kind of learning how to juggle all that time again, because now you're essentially physically working a full-time job and you're still a full-time student studying. So those first like 6 months are a little rough and they're definitely a big learning period, and they're going to be very, very tired.
In the clinical portion, we had a test about once a month.
Yeah.
So it was like some weekends, like it would be like we'd have a test, and then I have like the next weekend would be like free. I wouldn't study. I would just take the weekend off, and I would do whatever I want to do. And then the next weekend I would start
And
studying.
it's different for everybody.
Yeah. So like it's not.
But
Or
that first practicum is the toughest part, I think. Anywhere you go, even if it's like an easier clinical site, not that that's a true thing, but that first 4 months, because you're learning how to, you still have to study full time, like for these classes, and the classes matter. Like it's knowledge that you need to have to do anesthesia. It's not like it's just fluff to fill the hours. So that's important, obviously. And then
They're learning how to be a bedside provider again.
You will often be there late, and that's 4 days a week. There are some clinical sites that they are very, very good about making sure that residents get in at 5 in the morning and they're out the door at 5. Our clinical sites were not like that. And not that
Clinical site
that's
is.
a bad thing, because I think we learned a lot. I stayed for one more extra case, one more emergent. I got there early and did one more trauma, whatever. The math works out that it's to their benefit, but it's hard to like go from just doing didactic to doing didactic and a full-time job that is demanding of 14 to 16 hours of your day, and especially that first 4 months. After that first 4 months, they kind of, not that things get lighter, but again, like you start to learn, like, okay, I can get there at 5:15 or 5:30. I can have my room set up. Have all
They kind
my
of find
things
their
prepared.
groove and they figure out how
I've
to.
done 300 cases and I know how to do these types of cases already. Maybe you're doing something new and that's a longer day. But once they started to learn that, it gets a little bit easier because you know how to do things. You know where things are, and it's like starting a new job. Like you go somewhere and you're like, I don't even know how to find the bathroom, and by 3 months down, you know where everything is, and things are a lot more easy, more fluid. Your day, you can kind of figure out your day. Like my first 4 months, I probably didn't take a lot of lunches, like just because I didn't want to miss something important or
Bad, Ray.
That's a mistake. That's a mistake.
That's a me thing.
Tell them to take their lunches. They get a break, take a break.
Yeah.
They get
We're
offered
gonna
lunch,
take a
take
few
lunch.
more questions because we have another speaker that's here. So, does anybody have any more questions?
Yes, sir.
You kind of mentioned recently about not being co-located with the didactic portion. Could you talk a little bit more about good ways that you receive support for that first year?
Oh yeah. So not just was I in a long distance relationship, I moved away from my family and everyone that was all in Houston. So a lot of my routine had changed. Everything had changed. The first couple months, outside of being stressed about school, I was super kind of, I don't want to say depressed because no one diagnosed me with that, but it was really sad because community is really important to me. Like I had a church, I had all these things. I didn't know where to go to church. I was like, on Sundays I'm just here. But I share calendar with my family, so they know when exactly I have a test. They know everything I'm doing. They know what classes. Like I share calendar with them. They have our entire schedule, and every morning I call my mom and we pray together. And that was just my way of staying connected with them, and staying connected with my family. And anytime they know I have a test coming up, they will always check on me. And really, like my boyfriend is not medical, so there's really like even when I'm complaining about things, like he's like, I don't understand what that means, but I'm praying for you. But I don't know what to talk about. But the one class he could help me with was our scholarly writing, so he tried to support me in that. He would read my papers. He didn't understand what it said, but he could help me with like grammar and punctuation and stuff like that. So those are ways that they were able to support. But I think the shared calendar was such a great way for them to feel connected and feel like they could help me and support me throughout the process. So
And finding like a friend. Like we all kind of get really close during school. Like you meet all these new people and like you trauma bond over school and but like y'all will get to know everybody else's spouses also, and like y'all will become friends, and it is okay to lean on each other and kind of like make a support system there, because we're all going to talk to each other 24/7, and still kind of socialize. But
Do you have a question?
So my question, my wife is going to be in Shreveport as well. So if she moves, I live right here in Dallas, and thank God she get to come here for didactics. But the issue, not the issue, when she goes to clinicals, do y'all recommend me moving there? Like,
that's between that. I mean that is really personally like between you and your.
Can your job support you moving there?
Yeah.
I'm a nurse. So
I mean,
my job here.
if you can, I think it's great. My husband couldn't do that, and so
I mean, if she just plans to move back to this area, there are like plenty of jobs here. So like, it's really only a 20-month period, right? It's really
It's temporary.
It's
so temporary.
super temporary and it's very doable.
Yeah, I would say I got Corpus Christi as my clinical site, and my boyfriend moved with me. I wouldn't have been able to take my dogs with me. Like I was gone so many hours a day, I wasn't able to like take my dogs out. So like him moving there with me took a lot off my plate, and it made it easier for me. But I think that's like dependent upon your relationship or whatever she needs.
Right.
I mean, he would cook dinner, so like I would come home. I didn't have to cook dinner. Like it made it a little easier for me to have him there with me. Like I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have been able to do without my dogs there. So it was nice that he moved there, and then we moved back 20 months later. So.
Right. And I feel like if my boyfriend moved with me, that would have just been an extra person to think about.
And
which I do like.
Yeah.
I think about him, but he's my phone right now. Like I just talk to him on the phone. So, but
I think
yeah,
just
everyone's different. Yeah, so it just depends on the type of like what are you taking with you to Shreveport? If it's just her, she's gonna come back. And if she plans to work here, then all she has to do is just sacrifice that 20 months, which you guys will see each other from time. It's just a drive. I mean, Shreveport is like 3 hours away.
Yeah, it's 4 hours.
It's 20.
Like, this might be for everybody. It's like, how busy clinical being for somebody moving, relocating to y'all being. I guess it's helpful having dogs and what. We don't have any kids, no dogs, nothing. How helpful would that be? Am I seeing her? Am I moving somewhere or relocating my job that I like for 20 months? Because I can also do work 3 days.
You're not gonna see her a lot.
Yeah.
You probably won't get to see her too much.
I can also speak to this too because I went through school with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband. But he was in Alaska, I was here in Fort Worth. So obviously, if we wanted to see each other, one of us had to get on a plane and fly, take a long flight. If we had been in the same city during clinicals, I don't think that we would have necessarily spent a lot of quality time together. Versus like when we had to make that effort to see each other, that's when we could spend quality time together because we're both busy, and in the grand scheme of things, it's such a short period of time, and it does go by really fast. The days are long, but like boom, it goes by really fast, and it's worth it.
To pick up and relocate it's a lot more than what you think it is. Like I was in North Louisiana when I was in school, and my husband at the time stayed here with our daughter. So he effectively was a single man, or he was married. We were married, but he also had like a 13-month-old that he was caring for at the same time. And we would see each other. The plan was we're going to see each other every 2 weeks. Well, I got in the clinical. I had a week on call, week off call, and all these things were happening in between, and I was still going to class, still having to write a paper. That easily stretched into a month. And it wasn't, I was making the drive every other month to go back home. And the following month, he would come see me. And he knew that, and we structured it to where it was a weekend. I didn't have call. I didn't have to study fiercely for an exam, and I was caught up on things. So it's a lot of planning, going back and forth. It would have been very difficult for him to find a new job, do daycare, leave behind our family to help with the kid. Now, I know you guys don't have any of those things, but it's still, you may have a great paying job here, and pay may suck in Louisiana. Right. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things that you...
At Shreveport, your residents, they're going to pull call.
They work hard in Shreveport.
In addition to the time that they're spending at clinicals, we all work nights and weekends on a rotating schedule as appropriate from our clinical sites. But in addition to that, some places pull a lot of call, and Shreveport is one of those places where they pull a lot of call. So you may see them less even than if they were here in Fort Worth.
But it's just going to depend on the dynamic of your relationship and what you guys want. So that's something you guys need to sit down and talk about together.
It sounds like you have your answer, though. Like, the way that you were reasoning through it.
But it's still early. You got time. You got time. You don't know what you know, and then, things might change.
And see if I spent a lot of time away from my family when I was in the military, a lot of time, a good portion of it. And for me, being present is very important. Although my wife did leave me for a year, I say it this way jokingly, and took my kids to Florida because we thought we wanted to move to Florida. And I was like, we'll take the kids, make sure that that's the transition we want to make before we completely do that. So she worked in Florida for a year before coming back here. She just came back here. She works at JPS where I'm going to work also. But being present might be very, very important during that time for her and for you. So, I mean, you have to kind of talk it out with her and see maybe going PRN here and keeping your job, your tentacles in this job here, and working there, or taking a hiatus and taking a travel job and seeing how it works for you.
Travel job.
It's nice to have that flexibility to not, just because you don't have dogs and kids doesn't mean that your life isn't complex. Yeah. But to have that flexibility would be nice to kind of see. Maybe you could just try it out and see maybe being there is better, because she's gonna have to have a place to stay anyway, right? So it's not like you won't have a place.
Yeah. So you can also assess how she responds to didactic and see how much time she needs.
I mean, it's a year from now before y'all need to try and make that choice.
Yeah.
And a lot of things can happen in a whole year. A lot. So don't worry about it right now. She needs to eat one bite of the elephant at a time. That she needs to get past anatomy. So let's do that first. Okay, any other questions?
Just one quick one. What's a realistic expectation, particularly the first year, clinicals, I know it's gonna be a whole other animal, but the first year, what's a realistic expectation weekly of time that you can have together? And then if we want to take a vacation in the next 16 months, is there I know you said next fall is kind of the slower down time.
Next fall is the time to do it.
It's the only time.
Okay. How many hours do they have in the first semester? Academic hours? I don't remember.
17 or 18?
I think it's 5
classes.
17
So
the first semester.
If an undergrad, they tell you to take 3 hours for every class hour and double that, triple it for some classes. So truthfully, you would spend, I think I'm very efficient with my time. I'm very good with time management. And even in the beginning, I had to like kind of rearrange things to like kind of make it work. But that's not a problem that I had. I was very kind of in that mindset already. It is not unrealistic for your person to spend 20-ish hours here traveling and all those kinds of things just in class per week, which doesn't sound like a lot when you say it out loud. And then another 40 hours at home studying.
If not more.
So
I would say 60 to 80 hours.
60 to 80 hours is realistic for some people. Some people might be able to do it in less.
I was going to
Most,
say it's different for everybody.
It's probably going to be 60 hours of straight school and studying of some form or fashion for that first two, at least the first two didactic semesters.
Now, they will have holiday breaks. Thanksgiving, full week off. And then,
have finals after?
yeah, so if they want to spend time with family, you want to travel and do something, don't get mad at them for studying while they're doing it, because I will encourage them to go and see family during these holiday breaks, but they still need to study. It's not the time to take the foot off the brake and be like, look at me, I'm great, because most of them may still be struggling like with grades. And I try to tell them not to struggle in silence, but a lot of them will struggle in silence. And they may not actually open up and talk to you about it because they're embarrassed. For a lot of them, it's really, really a slap in the face if they were an A student and they're getting C's on these exams. And because their whole livelihood is on the line. The last thing, they celebrated getting to CRNA school. Like, they told everybody, they posted on Facebook, I took a picture, blah, 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 did it for the gram, all the things. But when they fail, and then they get kicked out of school, or the fear of getting kicked out of school, that's the ultimate embarrassment that they're facing in the back of their mind. So not only are they, it's a lot of fear that they have. So I still
have it.
Well, you have that big test to take.
Another thing, I didn't want to, I'm mature enough to do this, but like I thought to myself, I don't want to go tell everybody I'm taking my test next week. What if I don't pass it? Right?
Yeah, so it's a lot that they have on their plate, but I still encourage them to go and see family during those breaks, the long extended breaks, but still to study. So encourage them to go and do the things, but tell them to bring their study materials along.
You're going to be surprised
isolate
where they
and
can
carve out
find
time.
study time.
You can do things. It's just you have to be mindful of the time, and they need to be mindful of it. And a lot of them will be. They will be. They'll plan. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have one last one.
Okay.
The 20-day vacation, is that for the 20 months you only get
1 day per month of clinic?
That's it.
But you can group them together.
One at a time.
You can group them together, and if for some reason you have a baby,
I think I still have 4.
you can take a leave of absence, but anytime beyond that 20 days, you have to make it up. So if you take an additional 3 months off beyond that, not you, but your person takes an additional 3 months off beyond those 20 days, they won't be graduating in August. They will be graduating in November or December. So anytime that they end up taking off away from when they're in clinical, just because of Council of Accreditation and our rules and the rules of us being an accredited institution, they have to have those 20 months of clinical. So it's not all in stone because we're flexible. We know life happens. People have babies. People need to have surgery. People have just catastrophic life issues that happen, and we try to make sure we can work with them. So it's not going to be like it's the end of their career or their future career. We'll work with them, but those 20 days, most people do take them. They don't take them, or some people we encourage, but we can't force them to.
I saved my 20 days because since I came to America in 2012, I went back home every year. So I made it a point to go back home, try and go back home during clinical. So I went to clinical sick, headache, stomach pain, everything, so I can have my 20 days so I can travel. So I took 4 weeks off at a time to be able to travel, and that gave me 16 days because we go to clinical 4 days a week. So you're able to use it however you want to, but I saved everything for that. And then after that, I was back in clinical and I had to do it every single day. I couldn't take any days to study or do anything, but it was something I really wanted to do. So.
The only thing is they can't stack them up to use in July.
Mm-hmm.
So that last July before they graduate in August of 27, they can't stack all their days and be like, I'm just going to take this whole month of July off. Absolutely not. Yeah. They have to be in clinical.
But they can save them up until that not that last month, but like I saved mine up until like April, and I took like an extra day off every week until July, and got a little extra time and kind of got a little breathing room there. But that's how I used up my vacation days.
Yeah. They can do whatever they want.
That's purposeful at the end that they don't you take that last month of vacation because like they're gonna your person's gonna get to the end and maybe they need one more neuro case to be finished with school.
Right.
Maybe they need one more heart that they didn't get on their rotation for whatever reason. And you have to have a certain minimum of certain types of cases and certain anesthetics that you perform in order to qualify to sit for the boards. So they don't let you take that time at the end because they need to make sure that you can graduate, can finish this process. You don't want to go through 3 years of this and then not finish because you didn't get 4 more MAC cases or something ridiculous.
I feel like plus that last month, like July, the CRNAs were all like nicer to us then. We're like graduated in a month, and so they were a little.
It really
bit more
wasn't that
lenient.
bad.
They were like, oh, it's 3 o'clock. I guess you could.
Probably
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, but there are people that like they used a week of vacation like every now like kind of sporadically through those 20 months of clinicals, and they went on vacation and they were like, I'm gone for a week. Toodles.
I did. I went to Alaska to visit my boyfriend. It is possible
Like
to do that.
yeah, you can still have time. You just have to really.
Like 4 actual vacations.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just,
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
ma'am.
That it's
It
every
varies.
site's different.
It's kind of like, think about it, some, like for instance, an anesthesia group that I own, I make sure, I tell people, I'm like, if you need vacation, I need to know 3 months in advance because we have to schedule out cases that far. And I have to find somebody to replace that person who's going to be gone. It means I have to find another body to do it. So with them, it's not necessarily going to be like that. It's probably, like, for instance, you guys probably got your schedule for a month at a time. So
Something like that.
Huh?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
We
So
usually
like a
gave like
month
2
or
weeks
6
notice,
weeks.
but it depends on the
Yeah.
clinical site.
So everybody's different. And when they go to their clinical site in January, they're going to get like a list of things and how, like, policy and procedure of how they need to do whatever they need to do with that particular clinical coordinator.
Yep.
Anything else?
Are y'all freaked out now? It's worth it.
Good.
It's worth it. It'll be
But do
okay.
you feel more informed?
I'm actually after that, I kind of know how things gonna look out.
Yeah.
So that I can be prepared myself.
Yeah. So the water is still murky, but it's not as murky as it was. It's getting a little clear. And it's going to feel that way for them. Like I tell them, I'm like, I celebrate with them. I'm like, guess what? You got 1 day down. You still got a whole lot more, but that's okay. That's 1 more day you don't have to do. Well, I want to thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. We are going to take a quick break, and then I have Dr. Bishop here from the counseling department to help reassure you that this is still a good plan. Still a good plan. Okay, so we'll take a few minutes, and then we'll get started.
You want to ask a question you don't want to ask?
Thank you, dear. Hello. So we have Dr. Mike Bishop. He is part of our counseling department here at Texas Wesleyan. And a lot of people don't realize that our counseling department actually offers counseling for free for you and your student for the entirety that they're here. And so that actually can be a good thing, especially if you guys just have some problems or something develops, or even if you don't have any outward problems that you don't realize that you don't have, or you don't have anything, but you need just a third party just to vent to. I love therapy. I have been in therapy for a very long time because sometimes my kids drive me insane, or life does. And I just need someone to talk to make sure I'm not going crazy and I'm still making good, effective decisions. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bishop.
Thank you. Is this working? And you know, insanity is inherited. Yeah, you get it from your kids. You get your insanity from your kids. That works well. Okay. Well, I was going to say my purpose for coming here is trying to get free stuff from the nurse anesthesia department. Okay. They gave me a cup, so everything from here on is gravy. Before I talk about me for just a second, let's do something here. I mean, you guys just stood up and took a break. Let's do something here. Let's everybody stand up. And this is always challenged by choice, guys. Anything I do is always challenged by choice. So, as you got all this information and you had this group right here, isn't this a cool group that we had here? I don't know if you've noticed that people are different. Have y'all noticed that? You know, all sorts of different personalities up here, different speeds, different tones, different cognitive processing and everything like that, so we're all different. So let's do this. So stand with your hands right here on your side. And I'm going to demonstrate. So this is, I am totally calm, relaxed, confident, no worries. Okay? This is, oh my gosh, did you hear what they just said? How in the world are we going to do this? I'm going to run out of this room right now. That's this one, okay? So everybody take a deep breath, and without falling down, if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes and just raise your hand to where you think your stress level is right now in this material. Okay, deep breath. You can lower your hands. Do like that. We're about from here to here. Okay, all right, have a seat. So Dr. Mike Bishop, I'm a professor over the counseling department. And our campus is really kind of interesting. The nurse anesthesia department and the counseling department are actually on the outside of campus. Have you noticed that? You know, there's a street right here that runs around here. We're on the other side of Rosedale, which is next to the pizza place, if you saw the pizza place over here. So we're right across there. Our counseling faculty office is there, and our counseling clinic is there too. Just to let you know, we'll do a little bit more orientation with some of your folks in their classes about our counseling center. But we have a really good place over there, staffed by our master's and PhD counseling students. And we have a nice facility that's available free of charge for students and for you guys. So the cool thing about this is we also have virtual sessions available. So we do video therapy. We train our folks in doing not only in-person counseling and therapy, but also on video. So when you leave here, you know, that's available for you. And your student will have a number for that. I've got a few cards that's over here next to the mints, but they're old cards. They've got the wrong hours on it, and we're still arguing about who's supposed to pay for these to get some new ones done. So, but there's a few over there if you want to pick that up. So our services vary widely. We've got some folks who come in with some very severe problems we got folks that come in and said, I'm just really ticked at my professor and I just want to vent. Okay, both of those, the whole gamut is okay, all right? We also have our folks who are trained in working with relationships, which is probably one of the top ones on your list. You know, one of the common things that you have is that I need to help my student. You know, I need to help my partner through this ordeal. It is an ordeal. I come over here and I'm out of breath. I wouldn't want to teach over here. They work too hard. Okay, but it is an intensive program, and you understand why. You know, some of you guys are already in the medical field, but you're dealing with people's lives, and you really want to make sure that they're well trained and they have confidence in what they do. But that's one of the things you want to take care of them, but also you're looking out for your relationship, right? Okay, so this is an interesting time. I don't want to call the program a crisis, you know, because it's a long time, but it is a brief interruption in life and doing something different. And like the students here said and your faculty said, this is pretty much worth it. You're going to be in really good shape at the end. You know, the job possibilities and income generation is very, very good in this field. You're going to get taken care of if you can make it through this time. So that's something to look forward to. But also, I said, I talk about crisis. I teach a crisis class, and one of the things we talk about crisis is what happens to us during that. And one of the things that we found, especially during COVID, which was a huge crisis for the entire country and the entire world, we found out something that was really interesting. One of them is that things got expanded. So if you have a crack, if you have a weakness, if you have something that's an issue, crisis, or this time of stress tends to expand those and make those worse or bigger, okay? If you have some strengths, like closeness, family, like that, it makes those bigger too. So it's kind of an interesting time as we go through here. So I want to talk just a little bit about maybe what you can do and what's available to you, not just the counseling center, okay? But also, I'm the least organized professor on campus. I claim that with great pride. So kind of reading the room here a little bit. The counseling center and the services offered, it's different than it used to be. I'm an old guy. It used to be the old heads around me said, you know, I wouldn't be caught dead going to counseling. That's just for crazy people. Okay, it's different. I think COVID has really helped us because the counseling field has exploded right now. You got radio and TV ads for, hey, call in and we'll get you a counselor on your computer screen, you know, and it's exploded. I get 2 or 3 solicitations a week for people saying, hey, we want you to come and join our group. Also, we've had a lot of publicity around therapy and counseling. Folks that said, hey, this is for regular people. This is not for people who have horns growing out of the middle of their head. These are people with regular, everyday stresses. And, well, I'm going to get off script. Oh, I don't have a script, never mind. So, you know, one of the things that we look at through here is that COVID really siloed us, right? Have you noticed that your social is smaller than it was before? Look at church attendance, you look at all sorts of participation like that. Everything that has to do with groups is smaller, and we still haven't gotten back to that because I think we got used to that siloing. So that's another thing why I think having someone to talk to, someone who has some experience in talking and asking questions and helping you think through some things and dealing with behaviors and thoughts and emotions is really, really useful for us right now. You know, used to we could go down and talk to Uncle Brad down by the creek and we could work that out. We don't do that anymore. So this is something that's very, very normalized now in our society. It's very, very good. So one of the things I want to dispel is that if someone needs some help or some assistance or just someone to talk to, there's not the stigma attached to it societally. Now, you may have it from your family. Your family may say, what? So, but you'll have to think about that a little bit too, is that's up to you. One thing about our counseling services that we don't talk about too often, these are confidential services. These are just like going to your a private counselor. We're guarded by laws. We're guarded by HIPAA regulations, and that confidentiality is taken. The program does not know about your participation. They don't get any type of reports. Your partner does not get dinged for using this. Matter of fact, my version is they should get extra credit for coming in. I know we're working with a lot of our athletes. I'm really considering that. If you go to therapy, you have to do 10 less wind sprints. I think that would be a good incentive for them just to come in and see that it's okay. So our counseling services are open to you, to your partner. And if you'll call, you can just call the phone number. They can set you up an appointment, give you a therapist at a time, and set you up online. We've got limited hours here on campus, Monday through Thursday from 10 to 7 in the evenings, and then 10 to 2 on Saturdays. Online, we don't have that restriction. So you can have some different times as long as you can work something out with your counselor or therapist. You can do that pretty much any time, which is going to be helpful for you if you're like in Alaska or Nova Scotia, for that. So that is available for you. Okay, we talked about stress. One of the things too, guys, is everybody walks in here with a different story. Okay, your partner, your loved one that you're here to help and support, if they had some issues coming into the program, they still have them. If you've got issues coming into the program, you still have them. So one of the things that we really want to recommend is making sure that you have a conversation about that. Because as you can see from our orientation right here, this is a lifestyle change, right? I mean, for this next period while they're in training, this is a different thing. Some of you are having to think, well, should I move? Is this a good time to have a kid? Is this should I, how are we going to navigate this? So those are all issues that you have. But you're having to make those decisions, but at the same time, you bring the same stuff into the situation that you have already. So it's some people have the misnomer that, well, I've got this issue I'm working on, but I'm going to put this on hold for 2 years while I do this training. But they follow you. They follow you. So one of the things we really want to encourage you about is having this communication, is talking with your partner about this. And we'll talk with them about this too, about giving you information, letting you know that you know what's going on. One of the things that struck me just from the panel through here is scheduling. I'm terrible at scheduling. I'm still an old timer. I don't trust this. So I've got a paper and pencil book that I carry around with me all the time. And my wife is constantly, almost every day, she's saying, okay, what do we do? I use code words for my clients through here, so I've got a session down for that. But she looks and sees, okay, when am I going to be in town? When am I going to go? When am I going to be here? I have a tendency of saying, well, I have to leave tomorrow for Las Vegas. And she says, what? That's not a good thing, right? So knowing the schedules ahead of time, I think, is really, really important. You guys will have to figure that out. Okay, everybody has a different way and style of doing it. Our panel up here I thought was really great. They probably told you 4 things to do on the same event, right? They had 4 different types of ways that they would do it. You guys communicate with your partner and your spouse to figure out how you're going to communicate, how you're going to get those schedules together. Because if you don't know what's going on with them, then that kind of makes their behavior look kind of squirrely. Okay, so, but they probably had squirrely behavior to begin with. So, but there's a reason behind that. So communication, I think, is really, really big for you. But that's a little bit too generic. Everybody that comes into my office is a couple. That's what they come in for. What are y'all here for? Communication. Everybody. So get that schedule down so that you know what their schedule is, what their study schedule is, because just because it's not a class they have to attend to or a rotation that they have to attend to, there's study time in there. So let's have a very loving suggestion to them that they write that down for you, that you know what the schedule is, and you can communicate on that. Other thing is, how many of you, let's test. How many of you is your student going to do part of their training in a different location than you live? Does that make sense? Okay, so probably about half of us, that's probably the option, because not everybody can do their work here in Fort Worth. So you're going to have some of those decisions to make about, okay, how do we schedule, how do we get our time together, how do we make plans? That's your scheduling part. Communication is another thing. When are we going to schedule time for us to visit? One thing that's really, really useful that I do for every family, especially if you've got kids, but even just with a couple, is to have a regular, what I call a family business meeting. And this is a regular schedule time to where, okay, we're going to talk about our budget, our finances, future plans, future scheduling, demands on our work, demands on our resources, demands on our time, demands on our finances. And to have a regular scheduled time just for the business part. And that way you can say, okay, here's the elements. And making sure you have a regular time just to make sure that you're here. Sounds like a lot of times, hospitals are kind of notorious for working on monthly schedules. So, once every 2 weeks is probably a recommendation for that. And that doesn't have to be an hour and a half long type of meeting with charts and graphs. Maybe just a 15-minute time said, okay, this is right here. We're going to look at checkbook. We're going to look at finances. We're going to look at scheduling. And, oh, by the way, Billy's got to be at a birthday party, and it's his birthday, so we need to make sure that we've made some arrangements for that. Holidays, celebrations, things like that. So I'm going to make a suggestion that you have a regular meeting just for business time. And then, have you started talking about how are we going to communicate in the meantime? It doesn't matter if they live in the same apartment or house as you. Okay? Let me say that again. Even if you live in the same house, you still have to figure out a time to carve out for you together, and that has to be scheduled. I hate that because I'm such a spontaneous person. But there has to be some time to where you can say, hey, I'm going to reserve this, I'm going to protect this time. Now, one of the things, too, is one of my bishopisms that I stole from somebody else is, life is what happens when you make other plans. Okay, things come in. The stress that your partner is going to be under. Like, did you hear these guys right here? Am I going to pass? And some of you are saying like, oh, well, my partner would never worry about it because they're pretty cocky. They just think they got the world by. Yeah, but there's still this idea in the back of the head. Am I going to do this? Because our faculty here are really good, and they are not going to leave a stone unturned. And it's tough. It's a tough program. So even if they're pretty confident that there's still that idea about, am I going to make it? Am I wasting my time? Some of you have heard about the old imposter syndrome. That's alive and well. Everybody else in this room is smarter than me, and they all understand it except me. It's so fun as a faculty member. I've been a therapist for 37 years. Okay, I've got a few miles on my odometer, and I still talk to my other faculty member. I think, oh, you haven't got that done either? Oh, thank goodness, because I thought I was the only one who hadn't got it done. Your folks are doing the same thing. So know that they are under that stress, and as much organization as you can do, the better that's going to be. I'm going to stop because I don't want to throw too much stuff in there to you. I'm going to stop for just a second. Again, my main purpose here is letting you know that there are services available. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh. It could be like, this really sucks. and go ahead and come in and talk with someone, and you guys can do that as well as partners there. So I'm going to stop because I like hearing myself talk, and I'm wondering, I'm not covering any information that you guys need right now. Have any questions about our services that oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. I said the faculty here are tough. There are some good folks. They are very compassionate. They really care about the students here, and they are very approachable to come to. They may be scary, just because your guys and girls are students of them, but these faculty are very supportive, and if they know things, they can help you. Okay? All right. I'm going to stop. Questions or thoughts? Anything about our counseling services that we have available for you, your family, your student? Anything about relationships here that we talked about? The only other thing I'll mention is you know your partner. Okay, you know when things aren't going right. Okay, that's a time where you do take that personal time and said, hey, talk to me. Let's make sure that we know what we're doing here and going on. If you're in a good shape, that's a pretty good thing. If you're already having a little bit of difficulties, this may be a time to be able to kind of get a little help with that. So that'll get in. Yes?
Do you guys, apologies if you said this, but do you proactively reach out to students to check in with them, or do you wait until there's something they're going through, their stress, and they come to you for your services?
Great question. So I'm not one of the faculty for the nursing, so the counseling center doesn't reach out to students. A couple of things, though, is if a faculty member sees a behavior in a classroom or in a work situation, or if there's a report coming back, there may be a recommendation for them to go over to the counseling center and see somebody. Okay, but that's not a proactive type of thing. That's what you're talking about. It said there's a behavior that's saying, ding, 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 ding. We need to nip this thing in the bud. By the way, that's earlier the better. Most people come to see me for couples counseling when it's either you or the divorce lawyer. Okay? Solid research said they should have been seeing me 6 years ago. That's when they first saw some signs. And it'd be a whole lot easier to work with them then than now. It's like the old saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago? But hindsight. So this is a little bit of proactive there. Great question, though. Anybody else? Anybody have something? I like no questions. That means I look smart. Okay. Questions or additions for you guys?
No, but I will say that we have seen an uptick in mental health issues amongst our students. And I really strongly encourage them, and you guys have started to see a lot more of our students, actually, in recent years, because there's a lot that they're struggling in silence, and then they come into my office and then just fall apart. And I'm like, okay, that was a lot. I can hold space for you, but I got this much space, and there's only so much I can do for you. Or they're like, how do I get my depression meds refilled because I don't have a PCP here? We got to figure that out. We need to backtrack. We need to figure out, let's find the PCP. Let's do that. So if they are on anti-anxiety medications and they are on different antidepressants, it's very important for them not to run out. Because if they do run out, they start spiraling and they get out of control really fast. And then that's when they get the poor test grades. And then they're like, well, I just couldn't focus on studying. I didn't know what to do. And then I just tried to supplement like with an herb because I read it online. And I was like, no, that didn't work, did it? So no, we got to do something else. So it's very important they stay on top of their own mental health. And a lot of you may not know if they are taking the medications because some of them aren't open or they don't share anything with you. But if they are and they are struggling, or if you don't want them to get to the point where they've cycled off the medications and now they're just out there free falling. I had quite a few students this past year who moved here from like California or Florida or saw my PCP was a year ago. I was like, no one is going to just see you at Minute Clinic and say, I'm going to refill your depression medications. It's not going to work like that. And, or if they're on some kind of antipsychotic, they've got to go through a workup with them. Do you guys even prescribe antipsychotics? So,
No.
But they could probably refer them to a psychiatrist that could. So it's very important for them to stay on top of their mental health because it's an ongoing continuum. And coming to me is great, but I can't fix it. I can help and I can send resources or send them to where they need to go. But another one of the resources that they probably need to do their intake assessment with counseling so they can get on board with it.
Yeah, and we just, faculty had a meeting last week, and they did some researchers on college students, and this is fresh off the press. 56% of all students who quit or withdraw from their program is due to stress and mental health issues. But that's not surprising, right? Okay, I think the other half is that, mom stopped paying for my tuition, but that's different story, not for you guys. Well, you said something else that really sparked me out. I forgot what that was, though. I like it when people repeat what they said because I just don't remember anymore. This is a multiple choice test. Do you see this? I like that. I like that. I think something about sooner rather than later is pretty important for us. I got it. My closing remark. I told you guys. I warned you ahead of time. Here. So this is an intense program, but remember, we are complex. Okay, I don't know how many of you guys are students of faith or participate in a religious affiliation of some type. There's an Old Testament quote that says that we are wonderfully made. Kind of a nice favorite of a lot of people. I translate Bible verses, by the way, in my head. Okay, I don't have training in Hebrew, but I translate that word wonderfully as complex. We are complex. There's a lot of moving parts into ourselves. And I'm going to send you away with a nice thing when you are in the middle of a fight, spat, row, disagree. What do you call that, by the way, with you and your partner, when you're dysregulated with each other? What do you call it? A tiff? That's kind. It's the she's an idiot time. No, yeah. So when you're dysregulated, one of the things I want to just give you a little thing to kind of hang on to. I love this quote. It says, "There's no such thing as overreaction. It's just that the thing you're reacting to may not be in front of you right now." Okay, there's no such thing as overreaction, but the thing that you're reacting to may not be in front of you right now. We're a systemic therapy clinic, which means it's not just what's going on in your head, it's about relationships. It's about how you grew up, how you learned to be a people, is the way I describe that. We learned some things very, very early. We're still using those strategies now. So sometimes have you ever been in an argument with saying like, how in the world can you not see this? Well, because it's not in front of them right now. They're working on something that was already embedded earlier, and now you're seeing the world this way. So just kind of remember that when you're dysregulated or when your partner's dysregulated, that there's no such thing as overreaction. It's just that the thing you're reacting to may not be in front of you right now. Okay, how many of you practice mindfulness? Any do any mindfulness? Oh my gosh, can I take just a couple more minutes? All right, so if your student does not practice mindfulness in this program, that's not good. Okay, got a lot of brain power, So we're going to do a quick exercise right now to kind of lead you off into the next section. So get comfortable in your chair, Okay, some of you have done some meditation before, some yoga, some things. So just take a deep breath. Oh, let me teach you a new deep breath method. It's the double pump. So, and this is, you guys know this because your people work with lungs, right? Okay, yeah, that's what, okay, part of that. So there's an interesting way of taking a deep breath is you take two of them. You take a deep breath and then you take another one before you exhale. Did you see that? Because that, I don't know if it actually does it, but it makes it feels like that diaphragm fills up. So take a double pump deep breath, blow it out. Another one. Then if you feel comfortable, do it one more time. When you exhale, just close your eyes. And I want you to just notice. One of my favorite phrases I use with athletes and people that I like this is I want you to notice without judgment. So just remain with your eyes closed. And I want you to notice. Notice your breathing. And right now I want you to notice what you can hear. You may notice people talking in the hallway. Some of you may be able to hear the buzz of the electric lights. You hear my voice. You might even notice the echo of my voice off the corner of the room. Notice what you can hear. Now, notice what you can smell. Some of you may smell some leftover food. Some of you may not smell anything. You may just notice the cool air going through your nostril. Just notice that. Don't try to figure it out. Now notice what you can taste. Maybe mouthwash, toothpaste, breakfast burrito. Maybe nothing at all. You may just notice if your mouth is moist or if it's dry. Then notice what you can feel. Just notice if you're warm or if you're cool. Don't judge it, just notice it. Notice the chair holding you, the pressure of your weight on the chair. Notice your feet on the floor. Do you notice clothing or hair? Do you notice what your fingers are touching? Just notice it. Notice your body. Do you have any pains? Do you notice that there's a muscle that's tight? Just notice it. Now just notice your breathing. Notice breathing in and out. And you're ready, you can take a deep breath, let it out, open your eyes. Just a little 3-minute moment, because when you notice, nothing else is happening. There's not a past, there's not a future. There's a here and the now. Noticing that right here is a good way to just take a little vacation. You know, if we had 20 more minutes, we'd take you on a little trip. You can do that. But your brain is pretty powerful. So go ahead and use that. We want your brain to be on your side. And we want your partner's brain to be on their side. Okay? All right. Thanks very much. Good luck. And go after it.
So we have some door prizes to give away, and I just love giving away things, so sorry. Hopefully you like it. If you don't, that's okay.
That's the door prize song.
Oh, okay. I was like, okay. So what we'll do is just throw some random trivia questions about, Texas Wesleyan and what you could remember, and we'll pull your name out of, where is the bowl? Oh, it's right here. Never mind. Behind me. And then we'll hand out a prize. So what is our school mascot? Whose hand went up first? I don't know.
I think right back here.
Okay. That is correct. Okay. So, Cynthia, you can pick whatever. Oh, wait. Yeah. What are we doing? My brain. Let's do trivia and door. Let's do a combination of both. He won a prize. Yay. Yay. We'll do combinations of everything. I was like, wait, what am I doing? My brain is tired. It's been a long 2 days. Long 2 days. It's only, oh my God. We never stop working. Okay, and then we'll alternate. We'll pull from here. Okay. Or Bailey, you want to pull?
Sure.
Okay.
But if you already won,
Then you can't win again, or you can have one of these lovely stress balls.
Okay, our next winner is Mary Shaw.
Yay! Come on down. And then when you win, tell us something interesting about your person. So, who is your person? Okay, and what is interesting about Kendall? Okay. I love that. I won't lead with the... Okay, and tell us about your person. Okay. Okay, so I know they're all smart. I know it. I interviewed a lot of them, and I sat through almost probably 75 interviews of some very smart and some, oh my word, go back to work in school. And so I know they're all very smart, but I want something interesting like, okay, I love that. Okay, trivia. How long is the clinical portion of our program? Oof.
I feel like I saw here. Yes, plaid.
Yes, correct. Okay. Boy. Or in the middle. Okay, and who is your person? Okay, one more time? Okay, I love that. I love it. And tell me something interesting.
He really likes to play on the Switch. Smash Bros.
Okay. He'll have something in common with my son because he loves to play Pokemon on Switch. So, hey, all right. Okay, all right. Yep.
Okay. All right. We have Mariah Sokol.
All right.
All right. Congratulations.
So tell us something interesting about your student or your person. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, luckily my dog I have a King Charles, whose name is Bailey. It's very confusing because people will be like, you've brought Bailey to work? And I'm like, no, I work with Bailey. Bailey is an adult. She can take her own self to work. And then they're like, oh, your dog. Yes. And then Scott's dog, did he end up putting his dog down? Shiloh? Is Shiloh still with us? Okay. So, and then we have another dog, Shiloh. How old is Shiloh's? She's 11. A Great Dane, and she's getting a little slower, and so she may not have much more time with us. But they are our little therapy dogs, and they come in on test days to alleviate some stress. So, and Bailey just loves love. He just runs around like a little crazy person or dog. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do trivia.
Another trivia.
Okay.
We have a really hard one.
Yeah, this will be really hard. So, what is the name of the ram? I know, right?
Does anybody know?
Cynthia, no prize for you. No? No? Well, you can guess, but you can't win again. But you can whisper to somebody else. You want to take a guess? No. You want to try? Okay. No?
No. But we can do a door prize. That was a really hard one.
That was
I
hard.
can tell you the answer just so that you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Willie. So now you know.
Who said Willie? Did you say Willie at the same time? Oh, okay.
Aw. Did she say it before me?
I think she did say it before you.
Do you win? Do you win? You're a winner. You knew it was Willie.
Yeah, give her the
There
big
you go.
one. Hey, Cynthia, give her that one.
That was a hard one. That was a really hard one.
Yeah, that one was like, yeah.
But now y'all know, so you know.
Yeah, not sure when this useful information will come, but yes. Oh wait, right here, Cynthia. There. Okay, is this one? Okay. Oh, and then tell us something interesting about your person. Okay. Like, he will leave class when he's not supposed to, or okay.
Adventurous.
Okay, so he's got the adventure bug. All right, I love it. Okay, very nice, very nice. Okay, we'll do another drawing now.
All right. Sunny Nagra.
Okay, well, that's okay. We'll keep drawing till the next one.
Okay, forgive me if I mispronounce, but Pio Guzman.
All right, you are a winner.
Congratulations.
So, tell us something interesting about your person. Okay. Okay, what kind of pets does she have? Okay, you got a little tiny farm. Sounds cool. Okay, let's do a trivia. What is the name of our program director?
Right back here.
Right back here. Good job, because she's right there. You are a winner.
Let me think. I'm thinking.
I'm like, okay, I think it's drawing time. Is it drawing?
Is it drawing time?
Yeah, because we just did trivia.
Did we
Oh, no. What? Tell us something interesting about your person. No. Wait, did you? Not yet. Okay. I was like, no, it was a tiny farm. Okay. Box?
That's cool.
Like hit people? Okay, no, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure.
That's a good stress relief.
Yes. I thought you said Roblox. I was like, my son plays Roblox too. Okay,
All right.
cool beans. All right, that's awesome.
Got another drawing. Okay. Bethany Simpson.
Yay, you are a winner. All right, so tell us something interesting about your person.
My husband's name is Brandon, and he plays the bass.
Okay.
They're both in our worship band at church.
Okay. That's fun. All right, so another trivia question. I just had one and I lost it. Oh, how long are they in simulation?
Like the symposium or like the classes?
The class.
10 sessions?
That's accurate.
That is accurate. It's 10 sessions. So I was looking either for the 10 sessions or for a a year. So, yay, you are a winner. Okay, who is your person?
My person is Wesleyan.
Okay.
And he actually took up 3D printing several months back.
Oh,
and he's
nice.
gotten really good at it.
Okay.
What does he make?
All sorts of things. He just made himself like this suit from a video game.
Wait,
for
what?
like a Halloween costume.
Wow.
3D printed.
That's cool.
But our house has a ton of things.
Awesome.
From the 3D printer? Okay. You know, because I read in Austin somewhere they've like 3D printed like a community. And exactly, that was my face too. Yeah, yeah. I was very confused, but I hope it doesn't blow down or something. I don't know. It's strange. Okay, moving on. That's pretty neat.
Olivia Daylor.
She didn't get to make it today.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, well, don't tell her that she would.
She missed her awesome prize.
All right. Kristen Quizada.
Yay! All right. Tell us something cool about your person.
Our person is Sierra Shakes.
Okay.
And something about her, she's a world traveler. She's been everywhere. She's like our go-to person for that stuff.
Yay! She is one of my advisees, so I love that for her. And traveling, because I love to travel too. So awesome sauce. Okay, trivia question. What are the school's colors? Ooh, who raised hand
I
first?
feel like I saw you in the baseball hat.
Okay. Blue and yellow. We'll take it. Or program director? Blue and yellow. Okay. I was like, and it's right here on this pom-pom. Yay. All right. Tell us something interesting about your person. Oh,
nice.
like a fraternal or identical? Oh, they are? They're fraternal, but they still look identical. Love that. Okay.
What does her twin do for a living? Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Not medical.
Opposite. Awesome. Okay. Time
Okay.
for a drawing.
All right. All right. We have Aminata Seka.
Oh. Oh, that's okay. That's
You're
okay.
extra lucky today. All right. All right. We have Elise Seti.
Oh, nope.
Elise today.
Okay. We'll keep on keeping on.
Ella Garza.
Oh, no. Okay. Well,
All right.
we'll just keep on keeping on.
Someone else is left. To go.
Yep.
It's hard to just get one. Okay. Parker Scheichel. Another one?
Man, okay.
Okay.
All right. We're going for the long haul.
All right. Candace Knox.
Yay! All right. So, Candace, tell us something interesting about your person.
My person is Rebecca South, and she has a neonatal ICU background to go to. And interesting thing about her is one of her primary parents just recently asked her to be a dog mom.
Oh,
That's really sweet. Oh, well, that's nice. Yay. Okay, we love that for her. Okay, how long is the didactic portion of...
Ooh, I saw this hand go up first. Right
Okay,
here.
that is correct. All right, thank you. And tell us something cool about your person. Okay.
Wow.
For many hours. She will love Dr. Tubog. Does she like Taylor Swift? Great, because he's going to make them sing a whole bunch of Taylor Swift songs. Lots. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. We love that. Okay.
Okay, another drawing.
Another drawing.
Okay.
You got it, Bailey.
All right, here we go. Madeline Carithers. All right.
Yay! You are a winner.
We're getting down to the last few here.
It's the nitty gritty. Okay, and Madeline, tell us something cool about your person. Okay. Okay, okay, all right. Hopefully you can find some time to go to somebody's pond and fish. Or do some other man stuff. Yes, or whatever people identify as man stuff. We try to be very specific here and be okay. Okay, do we have a trivia question?
This is another hard one. I feel like mine are the hard ones. Okay. But we'll see. Okay. What is the slogan of the University of Texas Wesleyan? You see it on the billboards, on the highway.
Oh, no. Did someone raise hand? No?
Anybody?
You want to take a stab at it? Oh. No. But that's a good one. It should be that, maybe.
I was gonna say this one right here. No, that's it. Say what you said. That's what that program director. Yes.
Okay.
Are we good with that?
Smaller, smarter.
Okay.
Just program director says yes. It's like survey says yes.
Congratulations.
Woohoo! Okay, so tell us something cool about your person. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. He's got a BFF for life. Love it. Even when she gets crazy.
All right. Okay, we got 3 more. Okay. All right, Trina Chrysler.
All right. So Trina, tell us something cool about your person. Congratulations. Okay. All right. Archery sounds fun. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a cool stress reliever. You got to do a lot of concentration. I think I'd be really bad at it. But, okay. Are those girl or boy? Okay. All right. Cool beans. Yeah, we're good. All right. What did we do? We have to do trivia because we just drew?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he cover how many clinical sites we have? Nope. Okay. Wait, what?
She was saying like how many months.
Yeah, but it varies.
Oh,
Yeah, on the rotation schedule. What is? Well, no, because it could.
We can always just switch to drawings for the last one.
We can, yeah. I'm trying to think of something cool. When is their first official day of class?
Right here.
Oh, did you already win something?
No, I answered.
Oh, okay. I was like, okay. Yes, tomorrow is their official day.
Correct.
Okay. So tell us about your person.
Garrison Railsback, and he can learn anything off YouTube, and he's an excellent woodworker.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have him. Yay. Okay, last one.
All right, ready? Lisa Sterneman. All right.
Hello. So, tell us something interesting about your person.
Nathan Sterneman is my husband.
Okay.
He is a great dad to 2 babies, and he is very mechanical. He loves to work on vehicles and trucks.
Okay, we frequently get, I have to change my tire on the side of the road, and I was late to class. So he could probably help those people. That is great. No, that's good. How old are your babies?
My oldest turns 3 in October, and we just had a
Okay, all right. Y'all are busy. I love it. Yeah. Well, I mean, he'll be busy too. So It'll be maybe not equally busy, but it will be busy. It will be busy. Well, please feel free to take a stress reliever because you may need some stress relieving as well. Oh, I won't throw it because I can't. Like that's not it. We'll, but if you guys think of questions or anything, you can feel free to email us or contact us at your discretion. We are always happy to help. We hope this has been beneficial and hopefully it alleviates some stress. It didn't cause any new stress for you. We know it's a lot and we know this program is busy and it's a lot to take on, and we are happy that you are on the journey with them. And we are super excited to see you guys in 3 years when we get to graduate them and call them Dr. whomever and call them colleagues. You guys be safe, and if you traveled a long way, please, please, please be safe. And we'll see you in a few short 36 months.